This kid had a gift. He saw things others missed. Clear dungeons fast, otherwise monsters spill out to feast. Claude is still low level, even so he always dives into the deadliest dungeons to get stronger. He will protect everyone. His current party is pretty weak, but they should survive. Inside the subway dungeon, Claude instantly realized something was wrong. Monsters appeared, the leader charged ahead while the others scattered. They ran like total amateurs, the healer was too slow. And the tank completely ignored the mages. Then, a sneak attack flew straight for Claude. He knew this place was highly unusual. And this group he joined, something was incredibly off about them. It was their leader. He wanted the entire party to die. The hunters grew furious, ready to fight, but Claude saved a teammate from a fatal strike. The team's mage froze in terror. Facing death, he was completely paralyzed. That is when Claude barked orders, directing the group. Soon, the monsters were completely defeated. The team turned their absolute fury on the leader. Was he insane? He tried to get them killed. Honestly, this whole situation is completely insane. A demon possessed their leader. These monsters feed on negative emotions. The other hunters had never witnessed such a horrifying creature. Only Claude understood. A demon's dark power weaponizes your deepest fears, destroying your mind from within. Nam Kaimin was totally vulnerable. Everyone was going to die, but Claude was completely unaffected by fear. He immediately launched a series of fast strikes at the demon. The monster taunted him, asking if he dared kill the host. Expecting Claude to hesitate, the demon attacked recklessly, leaving itself completely open, but Claude did not hesitate for 1 second. He struck without a single shred of doubt. Suddenly, the demon felt true terror. How could a human act this cold-blooded? Nam Kaimin had a haunted heart because of his younger brother. Tamin is an incredible brother and one of the world's strongest. But people always judged Nam Kaimin for being far weaker than Tamin. The demon warned Claude that killing it would mean killing Nam Kaimin. Claude did not hesitate. The demon felt pure agony rippling through its physical host. Enraged, the creature screamed that Claude was the monster. But those words meant absolutely nothing to Claude. He saw truth. Despite the deep resentment in Nam Kaimin's heart, his pride was incredibly powerful. He was ready to die to save his teammates. Claude respected Nam Kaimin's will. The final blow sent the demons head flying off. Luckily, Nam Kaimin survived. You see, Claude has a unique ability to strike the spiritual body without harming the host. When Nam Kaimin woke up, he assumed he was dead. His teammates, understanding the truth, were just overjoyed to see him breathing. Shaking with adrenaline, Nam Kaimin couldn't believe he was still alive. That is when Claude assured him, saying he was here to help. Demons feed on human fear, and Claude, he is a legendary demon hunter. He even praised Nam Kaimin for showing courage. Kaimin had never been praised by anyone besides his own brother, so this felt incredibly strange. But things got even weirder when a voice behind him chimed in, pointing out that demons do not drop loot, meaning he was dead broke. This bizarre situation actually started long ago, when Hoyeol woke up and was no longer in control of his body. It belonged to Granfell Claude Arpeus Romeo, the exact name of the character he created in an old game. Years ago, there was a massive virtual reality game that felt like living in an anime where players could be absolute powerhouses. But then, the unthinkable happened. The real world suddenly began to merge with that legendary game world. Arcana granting players the exact same powers as their virtual characters. With these abilities, humanity could finally fight back against the monsters. And dungeons appearing on Earth. Unfortunately for Hoyeol, he was poor and barely played, leaving his character completely weak and underleveled. That was not his only issue. Claude's prideful personality was completely uncontrollable. If a boss treated him poorly, he would snap back with that same energy. As the world grew dangerous, elite players became famous, but him. Besides being weak, he was stuck with the worst class, a demon. Hunter, it was terrible for leveling up, with only one advantage. It was highly effective against demons, but those monsters were extremely rare. Back in the present day, Ki-min safely returned to his home. He immediately showed an online news article to his brother, Nam Ti-min. Ti-min could not believe it, pointing out that even for a prominent guild leader, recruiting someone based on a random post showed zero wisdom. But Ki-min quietly confessed that he was indeed the person in the article. This shock caused Ti-min to instantly spill hot coffee all over the table. After cleaning up, Ti-min continued talking with his brother, Ki-min, questioning if he really wanted to stop being a player to become an analyst for Gaon. Ti-min found this hard to believe, as his brother had always been against it and suddenly changed his mind. Ki-min, however, insisted he was serious. Faced with this doubt, Ti-min asked if he was trying to fool him, but Ki-min stood firm and explained his reasoning. He had finally realized his own weakness and decided to follow his own path instead of living in his brother's shadow. Intrigued, Ti-min expressed a very strong desire to meet the person who changed Ki-min's mind so completely. Ti-min noted that this player easily defeated a demon and was completely unaffected by status abnormalities, showing an incredibly powerful mental state. He remembered his brother mentioning that the player used a simple dagger instead of magic, making it tough to figure out their actual class. With that kind of skill, Ti-min did not understand why such a player went into that specific low-level dungeon. Ki-min admitted it sounded completely unbelievable but asked for trust. To Ki-min's surprise, Ti-min said he believed the whole story because his brother was the direct witness. He acknowledged that his current success was entirely due to his brother. He brought along a new contract for Nam Chialman's analyst job at Gaon. Nam Ti-min proudly brags about his older brother being their top analyst. Slightly embarrassed, Nam Chialman thanks him and takes a look at the papers. He begins reading over the terms of this highly anticipated contract. Nam Chialman gasps in shock, asking if these unbelievable terms are actually real. Meanwhile, Hoyeol realizes he leveled up 20 times after defeating the demon. While his in-game character Granfell remains indifferent, the protagonist is thrilled. Hoyeol is absolutely ecstatic, instantly planning where to dump his stat points. After washing up, he decides to rest and handle the rest tomorrow. But Granfell's strict subconscious takes over, finding the messy room unacceptable. Firmly believing a clean space keeps the mind sharp, he begins cleaning. He scrubs every corner before whipping up a surprisingly healthy dinner. Taking a quick bite, he notices how balanced and light it tastes. He remembers that Granfell was always obsessed with routine and discipline. Every single action is governed by strict, unwavering self-control. Suddenly, he realizes his character's exact traits are bleeding into his real life. Previously, Hoyeol would have simply ordered greasy takeout and called it a day. But Granfell's elegant habits have completely reshaped his daily lifestyle. He also notes that Granfell is far from lacking in real potential. Actually, he is highly talented in magic, copying complex enchantments instantly. Just seeing a spell once allows him to perfectly replicate it. Reviewing all these elite traits, he realizes his new reality is amazing. If Granfell's genius is truly manifesting physically, his future is incredibly bright. Ready to test this theory, he grabs his phone but finds a long text. It is a massive message from Nam Chialman, which he decides to ignore. Testing his newly acquired magical abilities is his only priority right now. He decides to replicate an enchantment and begins researching online. He jots down fascinating spells while elsewhere, the Nam brothers are stunned. They cannot believe Hoyeol flatly rejected their massive official proposal. Nam Chialman suggests that another guild might have already approached him. However, Nam Taemin argues that Gaeon is the absolute top guild in Korea. They offered a luxury house, a car, covered fees, and a 95% split. He deeply doubts anyone else could possibly match such an insane deal. Nam Cheolman points out that global guilds are opening branches in Korea. Several elite international organizations are actively recruiting top-tier talent. Frustrated, Nam Taemin refuses to let another guild steal him away. He cannot accept that any competitor offered a better contract than Gaeon. Preparing to head out, he demands to know what the player looks like. His determination to recruit him is strong, wanting every detail on his target. He needs a solid angle to convince him to sign. Nam Cheolman thinks for a moment, describing Lee Hoyeol's unique appearance. He is not flashy, yet looks like a refined fantasy noble in elegant clothes. Meanwhile, our protagonist keeps studying complex magical formulas. Before long, he effortlessly grasps the fundamentals of spellcasting. He concludes he can cast anything, as long as his mana pool allows it. He credits his fast understanding to his genius character, Granfell. Being an absolute prodigy, he easily casts magic and prepares his stats. Not knowing the full range of Granfell's talents, he plays it safe. Keeping every option open is the best path. He drops 2 points straight into stamina and agility, then drops 7 extra points directly into his mana. During this, Lee Hoy remembers the tragic backstory he wrote for Granfell. He has no clue why that depressing thought popped up right now. Regardless, he puts 1 point into luck, believing it is strictly for his own survival from now on. Granfell has a brutal path ahead. With that single point, his luck stat almost doubles. He even starts joking that he might find a dropped coin on the road. Tomorrow, instead, his morning starts with a totally wild, unexpected shock. There is no coin, he just received a rare class quest, ever since the game. Arcana became a reality. Actual quests became incredibly rare since non-player characters are so scarce. To find, standard missions are tough to get, yet our hero just snagged a rare class quest. At first glance, it looks like a standard demon hunter mission, but he quickly remembers that this is no ordinary quest. A news report shows the top-ranked paladin, Jiver, starting his class quest. These highly prestigious quests are only given to one single person per class, making it a massive headlining event. It is even rumored that whoever receives one of these can easily rank among the absolute best players in the entire world. Rationally, our protagonist, who is currently at level 67, believes it is completely impossible for him to get this. His research leads him to one clear conclusion. After doing some research, he realizes he is the only active demon hunter left in existence. Now, the grand outpost of the demon hunters awaits. He knows their legendary outpost is in Ashan. It looks absolutely majestic, but the truth is a complete nightmare. You must climb 1,000 meters along dangerous paths. The quests are just endless, repetitive, exhausting physical labor, and the actual facilities are totally inadequate, to say the very least. Players are not even given proper daily meals. Because to reach the cafeteria, you have to hike all the way to the top while some annoying NPC yells directly at you the entire time. Our hero completely understands why players quit, but his character argues that demons devour minds, making this intense training absolutely necessary. Faced with this wisdom, he decides to leave his past failures behind and fully investigate the quest. Instantly, he realizes this is his absolute turning point. It is the prologue to his epic counterattack. Meanwhile, over in the capital city of Seoul lies the Anti-Arcana Union, a group specialized in minimizing global chaos and destruction. They hired the original developers who built the game Arcana itself. Now, as digital updates materialize directly into the real world, this dedicated team analyzes everything. To help active players, suddenly an employee asks a colleague if he thinks another catastrophic rupture update will strike this week. He admits he is totally exhausted and really hopes things will finally calm down soon. He mentions that a guy named Reynold is in charge of updating the page. The exact second he posts, real life instantly changes. Immediately, his coworker warns him that a brand new update has arrived, shocking them. The entire operations team is absolutely furious, realizing they must work late. It got much worse. This was no ordinary update. A demon was about to appear. A massive rupture called the Count's Fortress would open, bringing brand new monsters. The Count himself was the dungeon boss, pushing the threat level to absolute extremes. They estimated it at level 430, far above the top player's level of 403. The game staff quickly conclude that this update is completely impossible to clear. Not even the strongest players or a massive, united guild could survive it. They think about begging the Magic Tower for help, but non-playable characters there rarely interfere. Unless the tower itself is threatened, those wizards will not move. This terrifying rupture will likely destroy everything if the monsters break out. If these monsters escape into the real world, it is game over. One panicked worker declares that this update will completely shatter the balance of reality. Only a miracle can save them now. Meanwhile, back with our protagonist. His system suddenly orders him to start training hard for the upcoming quest. It assigns a brutal workout, but he honestly feels no physical difference. He wonders if anything has actually changed since his time back in Axon. Suddenly, his body starts trembling as he pushes himself through intense training. He can barely even make a sandwich, a tragedy for someone so obsessed with food. While his inner self is crying in agony, he has to keep going. His noble character persona forces him to stay perfectly calm and positive. Our hero realizes that without the absolute pride of his elegant character, Granfell, he would have quit on day one. Fortunately, he manages to finish. The quest is complete and he expects a nice, long rest, but guess what? Instead, the very next day, his relentless system forces him right back to work. Things only get tougher, and after a week, the pace accelerates even further. As soon as one daily task ends, another pops up instantly. He barely survives each day, solely thanks to Granfell's stubborn, aristocratic pride. Still, how many more times must he repeat this torture to get a reward? His anxiety grows as he begins to worry his only reward is a healthier body. But then a system alert pings. He has cleared the weekly challenge. His rewards are 2 points of vigor and 2 points of dexterity. Permanent stat points are incredibly rare, and gear that boosts stats is wildly expensive. The protagonist is happy to get a permanent boost without leveling up. He managed to gain 4 stat points directly, making all that painful work worth it. Maybe repeating these daily quests is actually a great deal after all. Right on cue, major news about that terrifying game update takes over the internet. Reports reveal that almost every major guild is officially dropping out. The sheer danger of this new rupture raid is simply too high to risk. This update, titled Territory of the Count's Family, introduces a chilling threat. Count Escura has arrived, a level 430 vampire demon. That is the highest level ever recorded, making this raid an absolute nightmare. Panicked by the news, the Korean branch of the UAA goes completely silent. Our protagonist can only wonder if anyone on Earth can actually defeat him. People are already calling this boss the strongest monster in gaming history. Fear spreads quickly, especially now that the top guilds refuse to participate. Hearing that the top guilds have already backed out, our hero merely. He knows demons are the absolute worst opponents for players. They grow stronger with every single clash. Plus, players must deal with endless debuffs, needing a 10-level advantage. Just to stand a chance, making this fight absolute suicide. But everything changes with the ridiculous quest he just received. He must hunt down the most dangerous vampire lord in history. It is a suicidal mission that has top rankers running away. Naturally, a heavy sense of dread washes over our main character. Facing an enemy that is literally impossible to defeat is terrifying. Normally, Li Hoi would fall into despair, but he feels surprisingly calm. He realizes his cold game persona, Granfell, is taking over. Speaking as the noble hunter, he declares that an inferior race is wasting his precious time, so punishment is in order. Inside, though, Li Hoi is absolutely terrified. Still, he has to do his homework and study the target. The files reveal that Count Escura is hiding out in Russia. To travel there, he realizes he needs to reach the Mage Tower. Its legendary portal can instantly teleport players to any location on Earth. This unique transport system is why foreign guilds set up local branches. Li Hoi considers taking a taxi, but Granfell refuses to wait around. Instead of bringing a warm jacket for the freeze, he packs premium tea. Yes, you heard that right, tea is his absolute highest priority. Meanwhile, a massive crowd of eager journalists surrounds the Mage Tower entrance. They are desperately hoping to photograph the top-tier players arriving. One reporter expects a massive turnout, but his assistant has doubts. Teleportation is brutal. It drains a mountain of mana. But right on cue, several high-profile hunters finally show up. The crowd goes wild as the star player, Nam Tamin, arrives. An intern from the local news asks if they have a plan. His brother, Chilman, tries to push the loud press back. But the guild leader steps forward, admitting he has no plan. He openly confesses that defeating Count Escura is currently a mystery. Still, not knowing has never stopped him from clearing a dungeon before. He just wanted to get here early to beat his rivals. As the proud head of the Gaon Guild, he refuses to share. He shrugs off critics who claim keeping secrets is bad for peace. If those other guilds actually cared, they would fight more active dungeons. Suddenly, a cameraman spots the elite Shining Guild walking up. Their master, Lox, is level 399 and ranked 2nd overall. He is their ultimate hope, and his allies suggest avoiding the press. Lox quickly agrees, while his arrogant teammate mocks the Gaon Guild. The ally thinks Tamin is acting way too cocky for comfort. But Lox just chuckles, saying the pressure is getting to them. Their rivals are declining, so they are betting everything on this run. Nearby, Nam Kaelman quietly warns his brother to stay calm. He suggests taking things slow, focusing on one step at a time, and showing their absolute best. But shifting topics, his brother asks if he tried talking to his contact again. Nam Chaelman admits he tried, but that sudden game update completely threw off his plans. His brother assumes that if they are that strong, they will likely show up. So what does our hero do? He just takes a bus to the tower. On the ride over, he passes the time studying online videos to learn more about magic. He quickly concludes that activating magic actually comes down to 3 distinct levels: inspecting mana, interfering, and then finally manifesting it. Trying it out, the protagonist successfully summons a flame right in his hand. But since he is literally sitting on public transit, he instantly terrifies everyone. The angry driver immediately yells at him to stop using dangerous magic on board. Apologizing, the protagonist is shocked that his very first spell actually worked. He realized he learned the magical skill just by watching basic video tutorials. This puts his mind at ease, but when he checks his system's status, he notices the new skill has not activated in his status window. Staring at his screen, he wonders if this is some kind of system bug. Arriving at the Grand Mage Tower, a legendary place he had only ever seen from afar, he immediately spots a massive portal. Staring directly into it, he feels a strange void. It feels like he could manifest the portal's magic himself, which somehow seems even easier. Easier than his first spell, but right as he tries to test it, someone suddenly bumps into him, accidentally shoving him straight forward into the portal. Nam Tamin warns the culprit to watch it, explaining mistakes are bad for the guild. His brother briefly pauses, feeling like he almost recognizes the passing protagonist. But Nam Tamon distracts him by asking for the mission briefing. Nam Koman starts briefing his guild members immediately. Showing a map, he points out a circle and warns of hundreds of different entrances. He explains that the inner circle is the Count's territory, containing 30 areas. This massive zone contains roughly 30 separate areas to clear out, while the central circle is the dangerous zone where Count Escura himself is located. However, this layout is just an educated guess based on their previous patterns. If the rupture breaks, the entire demonic castle will manifest in our world. Meanwhile, in Russia, news reporters are already on the scene covering the event. The entire scene is completely packed with people. Several online creators are also filming the rupture despite the freezing cold. Midst all this wild commotion, the protagonist finally makes his appearance. A nearby influencer spots him and, assuming he is a rival, tries to shove him away. The protagonist just tells the guy to move, making it clear he has zero patience. This freezing cold has already put him on edge. Ignoring them, he steps forward. He stands directly before the glowing rupture, completely ready to step inside. His only real wish right now, hopefully, it is actually warmer inside the gate. But he is not the first, as other high-tier players are active. Inside, level 348 Berserker Guild leader, Leni Balalichsai, is getting lectured. Her team argues that just because she is over level 300, she shouldn't rush. Leni is well known for her fierce temper and easily losing her cool. Just then the proud protagonist, Granfell, calmly steps through the portal. Inside the rift, his system warns of danger. He is on the outskirts of enemy territory. The freezing cold is annoying, but he stays completely composed and confident. Suddenly, a pack of level 230 wolves approach, only level 67. He activates his legendary skill, Natural Enemy. He believes it is enough to win. He then declares the wolves picked the wrong opponent. He is going to teach them absolute terror. The hunt is on. Meanwhile, other elite squads begin their own raids. Among them is Leonie Bellucci. She is completely annoyed about having to face so many trash mobs. Her companion tries to calm her down. But another teammate notes their guild leader is always like this. Soon, they realize that even after defeating dozens, the beasts just keep charging in massive waves, and this is just the very beginning. Leonie, however, finds it extremely bizarre. The beasts show absolutely no fear. This is highly unusual behavior. Her guildmates do not get it, but Leonie insists something is wrong. The threat feels way more dangerous now. She asks if anyone has heard these monsters cry out in pain. While being hunted, no answer. Suddenly, Leonie hears a strange sound. A distant howl. Her teammate immediately points out this is not normal. It is the sound of a beast that is actually terrified, totally different from the mindless monsters they just fought. Leonie concludes that they will get answers once they find the source. Elsewhere, Granfell continues his elegant hunt. He draws a bow, feeling his mana flow through the weapon. The bow is pretty cheap, but he can easily enhance it with his energy. With a cold focus, he unleashes fire arrows. As the wolves charge closer, our hero rains more flames in their direction. From a distance, Leonie Bellucci and her squad watch the unfolding fight. They are completely stunned. Once the battle ends, Granfell calmly decides to drink tea. The onlookers are left utterly speechless, trying to understand how he shot those flame arrows with such a basic weapon. Honestly, who even wears a suit and casually sips tea inside a dangerous dungeon? One guild member wonders if he is just some eccentric streamer who got lost while following another raid team. For her part, Leonie steps up and warns him that this area is extremely dangerous. She tells Granfell to pack up and leave while he still can. The noble hunter simply ignores her, taking another elegant sip of tea. This blatant disrespect deeply irritates Leonie. She snaps that he should answer her. Just then, her comrades yell out a warning about incoming Enemies, a massive swarm of monsters emerges, catching them off guard. These new targets are also level 230. Leonie orders her team to hold their ground. They desperately try to resist as best they can, but the danger is overwhelming. Suddenly, Leonie charges directly forward, using her crazy speed to slice them down. But a comrade yells out. They are completely surrounded by high altitude hostile archers, leaving them totally exposed, to everyone's absolute surprise. Granfell is still standing there calmly. Some even call him insane for. He just keeps drinking tea. In a deadly situation like this, the enemy leader orders the attack. A rain of arrows closes in, leaving Leonie extremely worried. Meanwhile, Granfell remains perfectly calm, inspecting the mana inside his thermos. He finds it easy to control, but to summon what he wants, the exact ability he wants, he would need an absolutely massive amount of mana. Not yet, anyway, but what if enchantments are not standard skills? Everything changes. With that, he manipulates his own thermos and gets a pretty satisfying result. Leonie tries to protect herself as best she can until she realizes the arrows have not hit them. Her group looks up. A massive stone barrier stands tall, protecting them. It shielded everyone completely. Leonie wonders if this is somehow alchemy, but notes she has never seen anything like it before. Such skills are hard to perform. Quickly, Granfell walks over to them and explains this is no skill. He is actually using pure magic. Just look at that. This massive protective wall leaves everyone completely speechless. Even Granfell is secretly impressed with his own capabilities right now, since he barely had any time to test them before entering this rift. No time to think. The enemies are not stopping their assault. They are coming on foot now, trying to quickly surround the heroes. Seeing this, Granfell realizes he will also have to take action. The guild leader quickly orders her companions to prepare for combat and begs Granfell to help. They are all in deep trouble. Granfell gets ready. To Leonie's absolute shock, he suddenly summons a bow. During the clash, a hero gets hurt, and a teammate calls for a healer. But doing so exposes him to danger. A deadly strike is closing in. Before it lands, someone steps in. The attack is blocked completely. It was stopped with just a single, precise arrow shot by Granfell. In complete disbelief, Leonie desperately tries to understand how his skills work. And the crazy part, he reveals a new trick with every single shot. This time he uses a fire arrow and blasts the nearest enemy. Leonie realizes this warrior is using the skills of a mage, alchemist, and archer. Utterly baffled, she wonders who on earth is standing before her. Before long, the heroes manage to completely wipe out the remaining enemies. A guild member reports to Leonie that there are no opponents around. She praises her team, but her mind is totally distracted elsewhere. Leonie cannot understand why Granfell is alone in this high-level rift, wearing terrible gear and refusing to give any straight answers. He does not even look tired, though reluctant to admit it. The guild leader knows they would all be dead without him. She suspects he is a top-tier ranker, though she has never heard of his skills. She even starts to find him handsome. Still, remembering his cold attitude, she refuses to thank him. Leonie stares at him just a bit too long. Suddenly, he catches her looking, leaving her deeply embarrassed as she turns away. She tries to hide it, but his cool composure really bothers her. He continues to stare back at her. She secretly hopes he might share his tea with her, and if that actually happened, there is no way she could refuse. To her absolute surprise, he walks over and calmly tells her that even though she has been staring for so long, he won't be sharing his tea with anyone. With that, Leonie's expectations shatter completely. A bit later, news drones from a Korean reporter fly over Russia to cover the massive rupture area. Global attention is fully locked on the dangerous situation. Since they are facing the highest-level boss ever witnessed, the reporter is not alone. As global press teams provide full coverage, they report that there are Hundreds of minor ruptures surrounding the main territory that players must completely clear out first. This setup is correct, as the boss's fortress is the final stage. Elite top-tier guilds like Shining and Gaon have already entered deep into the rupture, leaving everyone to wonder which team will manage to reach the end first. Whichever guild claims the prestigious honor of clearing this zone will instantly earn massive, unrivaled global fame. Naturally, anticipation on the outside is absolutely crazy. Meanwhile, inside a dimly lit TV director's cabin, an employee arrives carrying fresh coffee. The employee complains about how dark it is in the small room. But the director claims he prefers the darkness and asks if any new footage has arrived. His staffer informs him that all teams are already halfway to the goal, with the powerful Shining Guild currently running the fastest and leading the entire pack. The director expresses his deep hope to get the absolute first interview when they exit. But get ready, because a sudden, dramatic shift is about to catch everyone off guard. An assistant sprints right past the news reporters, leaving them totally baffled. He announces the first clearing has been completed, ordering his stunned reporters to follow the assistant immediately. Everyone is shocked, but the director explains they have no details yet, which is exactly why they need to get their cameras out there. The assistant, who rushed ahead, finally arrives and contacts the director. His boss quickly asks if he can see which guild cleared it. The assistant reveals it is not any expected group, but the Berserkers. The director finds this bizarre, since they are only ranked 32nd. Still, the assistant confirms the news, saying he filmed the entire exit. He saw the leader leaving with her guild and has sent the video. The director cannot understand how they bypassed stronger teams like the Shining. On top of that, the assistant reports that they look totally fine, showing absolutely no injuries while walking with a random Korean hunter. This is highly unusual for a guild made up entirely of Europeans. Realizing how crazy this is, other journalists quickly begin to swarm the area. The assistant spots the competition arriving and decides to secure his exclusive. He approaches the main character, asking for a quick interview about everything. He wants to know what happened inside and his link to the Berserkers. However, Granfell coldly tells the reporter to immediately get lost. He warns him that his patience is running out, leaving him speechless. Other reporters try to swarm the guild, desperate for any solid information. They demand to speak with the leader, but she has absolutely nothing. Leonie Bellucci has no comment. Her guildmates love the attention, but Leonie is in no mood for interviews right now. Still, reporters persist, arguing that this is a massive opportunity for her guild. However, Leonie Bellucci can only think about how annoying Lee Hoyeol is for stealing credit. He was the one who cleared it, not her. Looking around, she realizes he is gone. A teammate says Lee Hoyeol already left, headed home to rest, leaving Leonie Bellucci completely dumbfounded and wondering how that is even possible. Leonie is absolutely furious with him. She was actually considering giving him some credit in the interview, but instead he just walked away. She knows these major media interviews can skyrocket a guild's reputation, and she cannot believe he just walked out like that. And look, reporters suddenly spot a blue rift opening nearby as the Gaon Guild emerges. They were the ones responsible for clearing that gate. Reporters immediately rush to interview the members, but their leader, Nam Taemin, spots the Berserker Guild and wonders why they are here. A reporter congratulates them for finishing second, and Nam Taemin suddenly realizes they were not the first. Leonie Bellucci tries to speak up, but she is drowned out as a heavy silence settles between them. Later, back at his camp, Nam Taemin watches the news broadcast with his brother. On the screen, he hears Leonie Bellucci claim that Gaon is not the only top guild in South Korea. He is instantly triggered by her remarks. Even if her guild cleared the rift first, fame is clearly getting to her head. He snaps that Berserker is just talking trash since It is impossible for another guild to rival Gaeon in Korea, but his brother Nam Cheolmin realizes the Berserker Master actually meant she. Met another powerful Korean player inside. Annoyed, Nam Taemin asks who this mysterious expert could possibly be. Nam Cheolmin does not know. But he only knows one guy strong enough to do that. Meanwhile, Lee Hoyeol is taking a hot shower. He desperately needed to escape. The biting, miserable cold. All he wants right now is some decent sleep. Afterward, but wait, his inner noble, Granfell, has other plans. Granfell decides the house got way too dusty and needs an immediate cleaning. He even goes on to prepare tomorrow's elegant dinner, which actually helps Lee Hoyeol relax. He takes a moment to check his status window, realizing the dungeon drops were completely useless. Though he did hit level 86, he still feels it is a tiny payout for such a deadly fight. Looking over his numbers, he notes that magic uses way less mana than physical skills, letting him cast more spells in battle. Still, his mana recovery rate is horribly slow, and he has absolutely no gear to boost it. Worse yet, his Demon Hunter class barely offers any passive perks. Lee Hoyeol thinks that thankfully other guilds arrived to handle the monsters when they did, as things would have been way worse. But Granfell completely disagrees, blaming it entirely on Lee Hoyeol's own weakness with zero humility. Underestimate him and he will prove his worth, but if someone overestimated him, he will surpass their expectations and make it reality. Now Lee Hoyeol deeply regrets giving these cringy traits to his own creation. Shaking off those regrets, Granfell announces the next rift location is right inside the territory of the Count, leaving zero time to rest. He warns that Lee Hoyeol cannot just rely on flashy magic anymore and must master close combat. Luckily, a perfect training mission awaits them. Out of everyone, the famous guild leader is the one who caught his attention, and copying her unique style would be a major advantage. But to the horror of Lee Hoyeol, Granfell demands they master basic training. A cold sweat breaks out on Lee Hoyeol, and his worst fears are confirmed when the noble persona announces they must wash dishes first. Night quickly falls, but that long-awaited sleep will have to wait. Granfell decides to go for an intense late-night run instead, hearing a broadcast that 95% of the surrounding area is fully cleared, meaning the dangerous territory of the Count will soon open up for raids. Suddenly, the broadcast reveals that the progress rate has surged to 60% before the area is even officially open to players. If this continues, a catastrophic outbreak is coming, leaving experts deeply worried. Listening in, Nam Taemin is left completely speechless by the grim news. Making this much progress in one day should be absolutely impossible. His brother notes that dungeon timers shrink as the beasts grow stronger, but he needs a bit more time to look into the situation. Over at the Arcana Guild camp, a broadcasting director is losing his mind. He demands answers because monsters do not just gain power overnight. Unfortunately, his assistant reveals that even their top analysts are clueless. This leads to one terrifying conclusion: if the dungeon erupts, they are doomed. Once the horde breaks loose, everyone in the vicinity will be wiped out. No player or civilian will survive. As this panic spreads, dread grows. As panic spreads, you can bet our protagonist knows exactly what is happening. Since this bizarre event has never happened before, the panic makes sense. This hidden pattern is only recorded in the virtual game Axon. To prevent disaster, he must move fast. He knows vampires operate on blood. Count Escura shared his dark authority with the lesser monsters nearby. But when those beasts died, that borrowed power returned to the source. Now the Count is funneling all that returned power into his fortress. This massive surge is what is accelerating the rift progression. Realizing the core issue, our main character makes a startling connection. Clearing the territory will instantly trigger the final boss fortress to break. Knowing this, Granfell proudly declares that Count Dura is a total disgrace. A true nobleman would never reclaim a gift he had already given. He vows to personally pass judgment on this classless enemy who stains their honor. Hoyeol secretly agrees with the sentiment, but begs his body to rest first. He desperately wants some sleep, but his cringy persona has other plans. Granfell calmly replies that they can sleep when they are dead. 5 hours remain. The Count's territory erupts. In front of the rupture, an influencer named Park Gang addresses his audience, informing them that as the destruction progress rises, the monster outbreak is imminent. Several top guilds are already preparing for battle. But he shares an interesting fact. Unlike the surrounding high-activity zones, which had 200 ruptures, the Count's territory only has about 30. Because there are fewer portals, multiple guilds must enter the very same rupture. But the experience points and loot are distributed solely by contribution rate. This makes it crucial to watch which groups team up, since the fierce competition could spark massive clashes even among the top rankers. Amidst this, Nam Cheolman arrives, and his brother asks him what details he gathered. Cheolman explains that competition is completely unavoidable since there are fewer active ruptures. His brother replies that they will be fine, provided they do not clash with the elite Shining Guild, but Cheolman reveals that the Shining Guild headed far north, leaving them to face the mighty Unification Guild. He adds, the Berserkers joined the Second Sun and Bohemian guilds, making everyone extremely cautious. After that brutal first cleanse, just as they speak, a stranger approaches, instantly putting Nam Teeman on edge. He stands face to face with his Japanese rivals from the Inazuma Guild. Their leader, Kazuma Hisagi, says he is quite surprised to see the Korean Gaon Guild entering their chosen rift. Nam Teeman retorts that his rivals were insistent on avoiding a Korean branch, mocking them for only showing up because their flight just touched down. Hisagi coldly taunts him back, stating it is far better to fly to Russia than waste time establishing a branch in South Korea. After that blatant insult, Teeman is ready to throw hands, which is exactly what Kazuma Hisagi wants. They stand on the brink of a brutal clash, to the sheer delight of the spying influencer. But he is not alone. Nearly everyone present is desperate to witness a high-stakes fight unfold. Instantly, cameras and reporters swarm to capture the drama. This massive confrontation, however, Nam Cheolman steps in, attempting to calm his hot-headed brother down. Saving the territory is far more important than some petty, ego-driven duel. But despite the logical warning, Nam Teeman is entirely consumed by the rankings. Inazuma is ranked 4th, while his beloved Gaon Guild is slipping to 5th. Worse yet, Kazuma Hisagi is ranked 6th in the world, while Teeman sits back at 11th, and that is not even factoring in the fierce national pride between Japan and South Korea. Suddenly, even Cheolman feels the fire of that rivalry and refuses to retreat. Now he and his brother are completely determined to crush the Inazuma Guild. It does not take long for news outlets to broadcast that both Gaon and Inazuma have entered the rift. Their famous feud immediately draws a massive crowd, with viewers hanging on every movement, analyzing player rankings and national bragging rights. Far to the north, the top 2 guilds hold ground, Shining at number 1 and the Unification Guild at number 2. Meanwhile, in the Southern Rift, the Berserker Guild sits at 30th, with Second Sun at 7th and Bohemian holding 3rd place. Alarmingly, the global destruction progress rate has already reached 80%, spreading mass panic and dread across the globe. Amidst this rising chaos, our powerful protagonist silently slips into a hidden rift within the Count's territory. His last raid proved just how dangerous running out of mana is, forcing him to find a smarter way to use mana in battle. The brilliant result was designated magic, an application of his alchemy skill that lets him reshape things into any form he desires. The first time he tried it, he turned stones from the ground into A cup and a table, but complex gear, that takes way too much. Mana, because of this, it is completely useless during intense combat. But staring at his screen, our protagonist suddenly figured it out. As he stands there daydreaming, monsters surround him. He wonders if this is the authority the Count granted them, and honestly finds their actions pathetic. He then blasts them with magic. Return to dust, he coldly commands. The trick, restoring items to their original form, requires almost zero energy. A brilliant shortcut, he proudly dubbed this technique reverse magic. Reverse magic, meanwhile, in the deepest depths of the Count's territory, the monsters defending the area are attacked by Nam Taman. The enemies try grouping up against him, but the guild leader is unfazed and easily destroys them all, clearing the area in no time. However, Nam Taman notices there are very few enemies and finds the situation strange, as there should be more of them around. An ally approaches and reports that on the Inazuma Guild's side, the situation is exactly the same. She says that since they entered, they haven't faced 10 enemies despite both guilds heading in completely opposite directions. Shortly after, Hagi Kazuma approaches and comments that the place is much more peaceful than expected. Taman snaps, asking why his old rival is acting friendly. Hagi Kazuma claims not to know why he hates him so much, but says all this hostility makes him want to fight back before things get ugly. Between them, Taman receives a call. His brother is almost done analyzing the dungeon but cannot send a video. Taman reports he is in some kind of town square. Terrified, his brother tells him to get out of there. Immediately, Taman hesitates. He does not understand why, but quickly notices something approaching. The Count's level 350 knights arrive. Suddenly, the heroes instantly realize they are trapped. No time to run, zero escape. Nam Taman realizes they are surrounded, and so does his rival. Taman knows these knights have far more destructive power on flat terrain like this, and because of that, he has no contingency plan. Kazuma, on the other hand, says he hates the idea, but suggests they team up for a brief moment. They see enemies approaching from every direction and realize that if nothing is done, everyone from both guilds will die. Taman's brother warns him that the unified Under Heaven Guild also suffered major losses in an ambush by knights and urges him to retreat to a different type of terrain. But at this point, Taman has absolutely nowhere to run. How do they survive this? Suddenly, a massive spell strikes the enemies and blasts them away from the heroes, shocking even the veteran guild leaders. A stone pillar rises, separating them from the enemy cavalry. Nam Taman wonders who could have summoned such a powerful barrier. Soon, a lone warrior approaches. From a distance, Nam Taman recognizes him immediately, but cannot understand how the protagonist pulled off such an insane feat. While the heroes are still shocked, suddenly our hero appears. Elsewhere, a streamer admits he's running quite late. But now he's back, trailing the Gaeon Guild by following their fresh tracks. He follows their tracks, but his chat quickly warns him that he is definitely not alone. So he tells his viewers he is hunting Inazuma instead. Just then, a massive explosion echoes, and he decides to run toward the noise. That deafening crash actually came from the giant stone pillars popping up everywhere. Our hero had just summoned these structures across the battlefield. Everyone on the field is wondering who this silent newcomer is. Hagi Kazuma realizes this mystery person must possess an insane mana pool. He also notices that instead of heavy combat armor, our hero is simply wearing a formal suit. This unusual choice of outfit only fuels everyone's intense curiosity. Meanwhile, a few enemy soldiers manage to slip past the barriers. They squeeze between the stone pillars, but the tight spaces slow down their horses. Seeing this, Nam Taman yells out, "Save the thanks for later, it is time to fight." Believing they can win, he immediately charges at the struggling enemies. Hagi Kazuma also senses the massive shift and immediately orders his own allies to attack. An absolute clash begins. Meanwhile, the streamer records. His mouth is wide open, completely stunned by this unknown mage's power. To our hero, it is just simple reverse magic. But to the streamer, it looks like a lone warrior fighting the entire cavalry. He can barely believe his eyes. You just do not see stuff this wild every day. It is a genuinely rare sight. Now, our hero pulls out a silver dagger. However, he is worried about wearing down its durability during a messy fight. He wonders if manipulating its mana will transform it. If he can revert it back later, the blade might stay safe, but he's not sure. He recalls transforming a simple stone into a cup, which completely changed its overall durability. Once it turned back into stone, the original durability returned as well. Theoretically, the same rules apply to his dagger. So he transforms the blade into a sharp spike and performs a quick test strike. Afterward, he restores the weapon to its original shape and realizes it worked exactly as predicted. This clever trick is going to be incredibly useful going forward. After the battle, Nam Tamin stands frozen in thought. He is finally standing face to face with the legendary warrior his brother praised. Having witnessed our hero's power firsthand, his determination reaches a whole new level. He is now more determined than ever to successfully recruit this mysterious warrior for his guild. Especially since the rival guild leader also witnessed the hero in action. What could he possibly offer that was not already rejected the first time around? Suddenly, the Wii TV streamer approaches our hero. He wants an exclusive interview, just like everyone else present. Other eager warriors quickly crowd around the hero. They do not even know if this mystery guy is Korean or Japanese. Not wanting to miss out, Nam Tamin also tries to squeeze closer. Reaching our hero, he quickly introduces himself to him. He adds that he had previously sent an official invite to join his guild. Our hero, however, calmly replies that his approach lacked any real formality. He refuses to answer. This silence goes live. Live and news quickly spreads that the mysterious player declined to give any answers because of a lack of proper protocol. Meanwhile, the biggest headline is that the elite Shining Guild was the first to clear the Count's territory. But back at camp, guild leader Lox is not excited. Not even a bit. He is analyzing footage of the fight. About their thoughts, Camilla just shrugs and claims she is a simple archer, while Demeter points out there is no point asking about things they clearly do not know, which only fuels the curiosity of Lox. Camilla notes that the guy is pretty impressive, predicting he will either be recruited or become a major threat. They will regret. Demeter just laughs at their jealous boss. Simply jealous because the protagonist stole the spotlight right after their guild conquered the Count's territory. He adds that their leader really shouldn't be so greedy. After all, they already got plenty of screen time. Camilla agrees, pointing out that the press always gets excited over someone new, and a player like this is just enjoying a very brief moment of fame. His crew leaves to party. Locke stays behind, completely obsessed. He keeps replaying the fight footage over and over. Suddenly, a top mate named Jessie Heinesse approaches him, finding the video absolutely fascinating. She notes that it almost looks like magic, but somehow it is not. Locke mentions that he has never seen Jessie Heinesse get impressed by anything, to which she replies that the fighter in the video is genuinely intriguing. Meanwhile, at the Berserker Guild camp, the fierce Lini Balalichsai is also watching the furious. She snaps. She knew that guy was not normal. Her team tries to calm her down, but she only gets angrier. Only gets more agitated. Over at the Inazuma camp, their leader gets a call, ordering him to recruit the protagonist, a task he confidently promises to pull off. Later, a reporter announces that the big day has finally arrived in Arcana, with massive crowds watching closely. The Count's entire territory and its surroundings have been cleared. Both the Shining and Unified guilds fought hard for first place, but Shining won. Now only the Count's fortress remains. With destruction progress at 72%, tension rises. From all across the globe are gathering to enter, but because of the extreme risk of this breach, tension is running high. If that dark fortress blows, Russia will be completely wiped off the map. Everyone is wishing the brave players good luck, but hold on, something else stole the show. Among all the recorded footage, one specific scene stood out. A completely unarmed fighter wearing a simple business suit showed up and put on an incredible performance. Everyone is wondering about the source of his powers and the real reason behind his mysterious act. Our hero, however, just thinks he is wearing those clothes simply because he has nothing else to wear, reports say. He shattered massive stone pillars with his bare hands, leaving experts scrambling to explain this insane feat. The news adds that it would have been disaster for the Gaon and Inazuma guilds if this mysterious player had arrived late. After all, he was the wild card, the one who completely turned the tide of battle. He stood by and watched the rest of the battle, but what looked like a selfless act was actually just because our protagonist was completely out of mana, absolutely zero. But he is glad he did not get sliced to pieces. Checking his new loot, Hoyeol realizes this is the first rare item he has ever received since becoming a player. It is a cursed, blood-imbued necklace. When the curse on these items gets lifted, a random effect is unlocked, making players crave them for their rarity. However, Hoyeol sees a completely different way to utilize this cursed gear. By performing an exorcism ritual, one of his 2 demon hunter skills, he can use the necklace as a sacrifice. Normally, this cleansing ritual only targets the demon, leaving the possessed host unharmed, but things change entirely when there is an offering, creating the chance for him to invite a demon straight into his own consciousness. Hoyeol notes this is quite similar to the status abnormalities that demons inflict on humans, yet he is confident he can easily dominate any entity trying to possess his mind. Mid-thought, his phone rings with a call from Nam Chimin. Hoyeol has no clue why, but assumes it must be about the man's brother. He knows that if he answers, his rigid avatar might blurt out something incredibly arrogant. Since he is in a rush, a quick text seems much safer. When the brothers read his message, they are stunned. Once again, our main character gave a highly blunt and direct response. Nam Chimin feels a deep wave of regret, even though he knows they have bigger issues. He wishes he could apologize for his past rudeness and make a much better offer. Looking back at their televised meeting, he has to admit his behavior was indeed pretty disrespectful. Judging by the hunter's cold expression, he must have been absolutely furious, no question about it. Nam Chimin knows he cannot force a reply, so he decides to focus on their main objective instead. The dungeon's destruction rate is currently sitting at 83%. That gives them 10 more minutes to rest before jumping into action, but suddenly a massive tremor shakes the ground, and Nam Chimin asks, "What is going on?" Breaking news flashes across the screen. The vampire counts fortress has erupted early. The dungeon rupture completely collapsed ahead of schedule. Several percent away from bursting, the barrier has collapsed. Now Russia is ordering an evacuation. Massive casualties are reported around the nearby camps, and all borders are shut down tight. Get ready, because things are about to get wild. The vampire's massive fortress is physically emerging in the real world. Amidst all this panic, our protagonist quietly arrives on the scene. Before long, bystanders recognize him from television. Seeing him walk toward the gates completely alone, they assume he has lost his mind, but none of that matters to him. He steps inside the enemy fortress, instantly coming face to face with a massive statue. Our hero honestly wonders if this messy place even qualifies as a stronghold. Granfell remarks that such a cheap setup is too grand for a low-class vampire. To Hoyeol, the Claude family mansion was easily 10 times larger. Suddenly, the stone statue that sat motionless suddenly springs to life. The hunter realizes the beast heard his insults and readies himself for battle. Outside, Nearby hunters stare in absolute disbelief. They think he desperately needs backup, since he is facing a monster over 10 meters tall, making victory seem completely impossible. Defeating it alone, but they are also seriously considering just running away. Meanwhile, our protagonist just stares at the giant statue, and with a simple hand wave, he completely obliterates the enemy before it can even strike back. The players outside the fortress are completely stunned as they watch him take down the massive guardian with just a single hit. Nearby, the Heining Guild hears an explosion from the Count's fortress, realizing it sounds exactly like what they watched in the protagonist's battle video. Jessie immediately charges toward the commotion, ignoring her team's strategy and all warnings from her guildmates. To Granfell, that statue was just another regular stone he had shattered in his life, so a simple rock won't stand in his way. Right after that, he notices someone approaching. Now that the main guardian is down, the other players finally feel brave enough to move forward. Our protagonist has no idea why everyone suddenly decided to start fighting. Either way, his system gives him a brand new quest to defeat the vampire. Without hesitation, Granfell enters the fortress. Hoyeol desperately tries to stop his character from acting rashly, arguing that the Count is way stronger than him, but Granfell completely ignores him. Inside, he finds a massive banquet hall, instantly noticing something bizarre. Every single wall in the room is covered with portraits of the Count. Soon, the Jin Guild also enters. Right away, their leader, Nam Taman, senses that something is wrong. His allies try to figure out what is happening, but he stays calm and mentions feeling totally suffocated. Ever since he stepped into this hall of paintings, he has felt an eerie gaze on him. His brother hears this and realizes it feels like active demon magic, quickly concluding that these portraits are actually demons in disguise. Hearing this, Nam Taman orders his men to burn every single painting. Once they are gone, he finally starts to feel better. Nam Taman's brother notices that the leading players are already retreating. Now he understands why, since a creepy place like this must be filled with traps. The statues and portraits are causing abnormal status effects, which explains why the Shining Guild avoided the main entrance. Nam Taman realizes he was too careless because his barbarian class is highly vulnerable to these status anomalies. Things could easily get worse from here. But what about our main man? Check out his reaction. Coming across those exact same portraits, he dismisses them all as trash, saying that eating while staring at pictures like that requires a seriously strong stomach. He even calls the statues even worse, pitying the poor stone used to create such horrendous art. His harsh critique goes way beyond the interior design, though. He claims the entire castle is terrible, with hallways leading nowhere, showing a total lack of proper planning. After wandering a bit, he finds a massive grand staircase, concluding he is finally heading in the right direction. Judging by the layout and that awful stench, he figures he is nearing the heart of the fortress. Behind that next door lies the dreaded Count Usura. Our protagonist notices the hallways are surprisingly quiet and assumes the other players simply have not made it this far yet. But defying his expectations, Jessie Heinite catches up, saying she finally tracked him down, claiming she was captivated by his magic and just had. Hoyeol is stunned to see the girl floating while Granfell remains completely cold and calculating. Jessie admits she got curious about him and couldn't wait. She explains she watched his video over and over, but couldn't figure out the secret of his power, wanting answers right now. Meanwhile, the protagonist thinks that while he carefully conserves mana, this girl throws it around like water, which he considers incredibly rude, so he grabs Jessie by the shoulder, puts her down, and tells her to show some respect, as that is the bare minimum when asking to be taught. Jessie is suddenly startled, but not by the protagonist. Instead, she is absolutely terrified by what lies behind him. All this noise has awakened the Count. Quickly, the protagonist activates his skill called natural Enemy, as the Count approaches, he wonders aloud who dared wake him and realizes it is just two humans, calling them fools and claiming superiority over all humanity. But unlike Jesse, the protagonist is not intimidated by the monster at all. He mocks how such a vulgar vampire lives in such an even more wretched place. With that, the protagonist pulls out his necklace, dripping with cursed blood to use as an offering. Holding the item, he declares to the Count that he will teach him a lesson for pretending to be a genuine aristocrat. Next, the protagonist activates his powerful exorcism ritual and prepares to begin the vampire hunt. In the past, Granfell imagined that using the necklace against the Count would lure him to fight inside his own consciousness. However, Hoyeol argued that to do this he needed to make the enemy feel fear, something Granfell claimed was not a difficult task for a demon hunter. Still, Hoyeol warned him that the Count was level 430, and any mistake could get him possessed. Forever back in the present, the Count scoffs at the protagonist's necklace. He admires his opponent's arrogance, but claims he is still just an insect. Compared to his power, Jesse realizes the Count is absorbing the power he once shared with his subordinates. Hoyeol is aware of this. He knows that normally the Count would be 300 levels above him, and absorbing all that power back would make him even stronger. However, to everyone's surprise, the Count suddenly stops attacking and gets trapped in the necklace. Granfell surprisingly had everything under control, making the Count furious. Despite admitting the trick is unique, the Count claims it won't be enough to defeat him since he can easily bypass such a simple trap. After saying this, the Count summons a series of explosions. He also says he was curious to see how entertained he could be, but his opponent failed because he has now been turned into ash. To his surprise, Granfell challenges the Count once more, asking if he really thinks he is facing an inferior. Annoyed, the Count questions how his opponent is still alive. Granfell tells the Count to pay closer attention to his surroundings, stating that in reality, it is the Count himself who is dead. The Count is terrified by this claim because right in front of him, he sees his own defeated body. This catches him completely by surprise to the point where his mind begins to collapse. Granfell had planned everything in. He advances, successfully trapping his foe inside a mental prison. Outside, Jesse. She has no clue. She only sees the Count muttering, while the calm mage stands completely fine. Hoyeol openly mocks the Count, calling him a coward. This sends the Count into a nervous frenzy, and he demands silence. Too weak to hit his opponent, the Count wildly swings. Talk about overkill. The entire castle roof is shattered instead, leaving Jesse absolutely thrilled. She thinks he predicted this, but in his mind he quietly admits he just got lucky. Regardless, he activates his exorcism ritual, a unique skill allowing him to safely target the possessing demon directly. But there is a catch. A completely different effect is achieved by offering up a sacrifice to drag the demon into his own mind. The winner of this mental duel depends entirely on individual soul strength, and the proud Granfell simply refuses to lose. In the end, Hoyeol cannot believe how effective his character is. Even Jessie stands completely amazed. Driven by curiosity, she asks what he did. Hoyeol calmly explains that the Count is screaming in terror, blindly striking empty air as he flees. He weaponized the very fear that demons use against humans right back at the Count. Mission complete. Now, with his terrified opponent completely neutralized, he decides to end things quickly with a dagger strike. However, 0 damage. The level difference between them is just too massive. He casually tells Jessie to finish the Count off. She looks completely confused. After all, he did all the work. Hoyeol would love to finish it. He is too low level. Seeing her hesitation, he tells Jessie to stop stalling and strike, remembering her request for his mentorship. She assumes this must be some profound trial the master is presenting. She realizes she will learn so much more after dealing the final blow. With newfound resolve, she channels her magical energy and strikes the Count. Lee Hoyeol is quietly stunned by her sheer power, with the foe defeated. He finally collects his mission completion rewards, seeing nothing but ashes remaining. Lee Hoyeol wonders if Jesse could have beaten him this easily before. He realizes that high-level players must possess truly overwhelming power. Meanwhile, Jesse picks up some of the vampire's ashes, looking intensely curious about them. Hold on, is she actually tasting vampire ashes? Lee Hoyeol is horrified, trying to stop her, but his rigid noble body refuses to move while his focus is locked. On notifications, soon, Jesse's teammates run up, asking if she won. Still completely overwhelmed by what just happened, she barely knows where to start. Explaining, meanwhile, Locke spots Lee Hoyeol and recognizes him immediately. He is the man from the viral footage. Jesse admits she is not used to being formal, but she will try. She then introduces herself. Asking for his name, her teammates watch the interaction with bated breath. Lee Hoyeol notes that while she lacks manners, she seems willing to learn. He decides to reward her effort and formally introduces himself to the group. He introduces himself. Soon, crazy rumors spread everywhere about mysterious man who breached the Count's massive fortress completely alone. Reports claim he destroyed a giant guardian statue single-handedly, leaving players stunned. Without warning, this mysterious man completely shattered the massive statue. When reporters finally arrived at the Count's manor, they found him already turned to ash. While watching the live news coverage, a little girl named Ering suddenly calls to her mother, saying her uncle Lee Hoyeol is on television. At first, she does not understand what her daughter is talking about, but then the shocking truth finally sinks in. She is utterly stunned to see her brother on every single news channel. Meanwhile, the protagonist is at home casually cleaning when his phone suddenly rings. He sees a call from his sister and instantly realizes that though the media does not know him yet, it is only a matter of time before his own family recognizes him. His face is literally everywhere. He quickly notices several missed calls from all three of his bossy older sisters, who have always kept a tight leash on him. However, their relationship is a highly complicated story. He often felt completely overwhelmed around them, which is exactly why he has zero intention of answering their calls. Suddenly, to his absolute surprise, one of them aggressively knocks on his front door. Annoyed, she demands that Lee Hoyeol open up immediately because she knows he is hiding inside. Since he ignored her calls, she decided to show up in person and warns him to unlock the door while she is still playing nice. Hoyeol's shock is even greater when he actually opens the door and finds all three of them standing there: Lee Yunhee, Lee Jaeyoon, and Lee Yirim. The protagonist quietly asks them to calm down before they start bothering the entire neighborhood, but the moment they look at him, each sister reacts with utter disbelief. Meanwhile, the shocking news coverage about our hero continues to spread like wildfire. The entire world is talking about how he defeated Countess Gura alongside Jesse Heine. Despite all the sudden attention, he simply stated his name and vanished, sparking massive curiosity about who this Lee Hoyeol really is. Elsewhere, Gaeon Guild Master Nam Taemin brings a warm drink for his brother Nam Cheolmin, who notes that the internet is talking about absolutely nobody else. Cheolmin, being a practical realist, points out that recruiting him will be incredibly tough into the Gaeon Guild. However, his brother encourages him, insisting there is still a solid chance. He also points out that the valuable loot dropped during the intense battle in Countess Gura's territory was earned entirely thanks to Lee Hoyeol, which gives them the perfect excuse to arrange a meeting. Taemin agrees that sharing the loot is the polite thing to do while trying to recruit him. Even if that fails, Taemin wants to at least build a solid relationship, leaving a much better impression than before. To achieve this, he is willing to hand over every single item they recovered, so he instructs his brother to call Lee Hoyeol immediately. Just a moment later, the Hero's phone rings, but he is far too distracted to notice. His oldest sister, Lee Yun-hee, starts praising his trendy new hairstyle, while the second sister, Lee Jae-yoon, finds it hilarious, teasing that he looks just like some famous pop star. Lee Yi-rim, the youngest, is actually the only one looking unsettled, realizing that even her quiet little brother's deep voice has completely changed, feeling slightly annoyed with them constantly touching his hair. Hoyeol politely offers to make some tea. Still, his massive glow-up remains the main focus of their discussion. Lee Yi-rim suspects her brother has awakened as a player, asking if he is fully synchronized with his avatar. Meanwhile, the older two are simply having a blast, laughing about his embarrassing childhood days, but the protagonist remembers that those cringy phases happened 10 years ago. Still, they teasingly recall how he used to call himself Granfell, constantly going on about how he would eventually dye his hair platinum blonde. It makes him cringe so hard, they even laugh at his formal greeting. Like some old-school noble, only Lee Yarim stays silent. In fact, she is deeply worried, asking if her brother is in serious danger. Hearing the news shocked her, knowing players get hurt constantly out there. When he ignored her calls, her panic and worry completely skyrocketed. Now she threatens to tell their parents, who still have no idea. Hoyeol wants to apologize and reassure her to put her mind at ease. But his ridiculous persona takes over, speaking loud and clear. He declares that the legendary demon hunter Granfell is more than suitable. There is absolutely nothing to fear, so his sisters really need to relax. Eventually, they wrap up their visit and tell him to stay in touch. Lee Yarim even warns her brother to save his cash instead of lending. Zero savings. That's when Lee Hoyeol realizes he has nothing to his name. These system rewards are the main source of income for modern players. Payouts vary wildly depending on the difficulty and your contribution. Rumors claim the Cosmo company went bankrupt, and the CEO, Raymond Shaw, is paying out of pocket, full of anticipation. Hoyeol checks. He checks his bank account to see his earnings. Meanwhile, at the Korean branch of the Shining Guild, Jessie is getting grilled about Lee Hoyeol. Her pushy colleague Camilla insists she must know something about him. After all, they defeated the vampire count together, but Jessie plays dumb. Camilla tells her to share the details instead of watching weird clips. Annoyed, Jessie flares her magic, telling her colleague to back off. She has way more important things to do. With that, Camilla backs off. But she still wonders why Jessie is suddenly watching so many videos about Korean customs and traditional etiquette. While studying, Jessie receives a ping showing her massive reward for clearing the dungeon. At that exact moment, Lee Hoyeol gets his alert too and freezes. Can you even imagine looking down and seeing a balance that ridiculously huge? 110 billion won, while Hoyeol is thrilled, his persona. That prideful character finds his joy pathetic. He also got the Count's orb. It is a unique rank cursed item. Most players would instantly trash this. They throw it away because the seal is nearly impossible to break. Fortunately, a demon hunter can use it as an exorcism ritual offering. Just like that necklace he used, which was crucial to defeating the Count. Although he assumed the item would be destroyed during the intense battle. Indeed, the necklace remained in his inventory, with its dark curse fully broken. He soon realizes that his exorcism ritual actually triggered a purification. Now he has the purified necklace, the orb, and a massive fortune. Seriously, who could sleep after getting that kind of cash overnight? Lee Hoyeol lies awake staring at the ceiling, wondering how to spend it. Buying top-tier gear makes the most sense since rifts keep appearing. Yet he feels his current level is still way too low for that. His level did shoot up to 134, but he still prefers to wait. Right now, he's more interested in checking out other options first. Mana recovery items almost never go up for sale. Finally, Granfell himself expresses a desperate desire to escape his smartphone screen and get some much-needed sleep. The next Day, an emergency council meeting begins at the local UAA office. The senior presents footage of Hoyeol's fight, claiming he must have used high-level alchemy to clear those giant stones blocking the cavalry. However, a skeptical mage present refuses to believe alchemy could ever summon such massive pillars. No single person has that much mana to burn. Naturally, a fierce debate instantly breaks out among the mages regarding the sheer scientific impossibility of such a feat. Right then, the exhausted senior complains that everyone only talks about Lee Hoyeol. His colleague admits he is equally exhausted because his entire family keeps asking about the same hero. It's all anyone wants to discuss lately. Plus, there's another strange detail. The official records contain nobody named Lee Hoyeol, suggesting it might be an alias. This senior desperately hopes things will quiet down with the update. But prepare yourself, because a brand new update lands far faster than anyone could have anticipated. A sudden system notification reveals the arrival of a brand new territory. The system announces a new territory called the User Archipelago. Back when Arcana was merely a game, players called this mystical place Treasure Island. Yet not a single player was ever actually able to discover its secret location back then. Rumors said every single living thing there was a priceless, incomparable treasure. Now it's crossing over into reality, and breaking news begins to explode everywhere. And right alongside this update, a reporter announces that the Academic Mage Society is finally reopening. This elite group of scholars is officially resuming its legendary activities. It's a grand arena of debates designed to help spellcasters sharpen their skills. This represents a crucial stepping stone for growth. Meanwhile, a major announcement flashes on screen. The top-tier ranker Jesse Heine is entering the tower as a special VIP guest. Hoyeol notes that Jesse is ranked 4th worldwide, yet his proud character, Granfell, previously scolded this famous global superstar simply because she did not display proper manners to him. Granfell proudly claims the mage's tower values true magic, not cheap skills. Hoyeol remembers seeing those exact words in the old game description of the tower. Still, he realizes attending this prestigious society might actually be highly beneficial for his magical growth. But first, Granfell insists they can only leave after finishing the kitchen chores. Classic. Over at the mage's tower, an enormous crowd of powerful sorcerers has gathered. Cleo, a talented local mage, watches the arriving crowd of elite spellcasters with absolute and pure excitement. She cannot wait to see what incredible research is presented, especially since the legendary head mage, Morello, is scheduled to step up and speak to everyone. Suddenly, a clumsy mage stumbles forward and almost knocks Cleo right over. But he is the only one who ends up crashing hard and painfully onto the stone floor. Cleo stands completely unharmed, shielded by a magical barrier, and calls him an idiot. Just then, a calm voice warns her to show some basic manners. A mysterious newcomer explains that this defensive barrier is a special creation. This newcomer explains that the barrier was cast by the Tower Master specifically for this meeting. Jesse steps forward, noting that uninvited guests cannot even perceive this high-tier spell. Recognizing the famous ranker, Cleo instantly panics and stammers out an apology. She frantically takes all the blame, but Jesse gently cuts her off. Jesse tells her no apology is needed. Someone instructs Cleo, reminding her that as the guide, she must lead the guests directly to the Crystal Hall, but Cleo reports that Jesse is actually the very last person to arrive, because everyone else on the guest list is already there. Still, Jesse asks if they can wait just a tiny bit longer. Cleo has no idea why, but Jesse insists. She has a really good feeling that someone else is going to show up soon, and she is completely right, as Granfell also decides to join the other mages, but as he arrives, he complains that visiting this tower is always the same annoying story with massive crowds blocking the way. He assumes everyone is trying to reach the Usra archipelago on the exact day he showed up. To make things worse, people recognize Li Hoi in the massive crowd, and suddenly everyone shifts their focus over. Granfell gets treated like some major superstar with people begging for photos and asking constant questions. In the middle of the chaos, a guy grabs his bag, preventing him from walking away. He claims to be a huge fan, demanding a photo before he lets go. Getting highly annoyed, Granfell worries about the expensive tea packed inside his bag. Tea that he bought with his own hard-earned money. He immediately snaps at the guy with absolute hostility, which completely catches Li Hoi off guard. Now he starts worrying that his reputation might tank if he keeps disappointing people. But get this, the exact opposite happens because the guy actually enjoys the insult. He actually loves being yelled at. Shaking it off, Granfell tries to push forward. Through the dense crowd, that is when he spots a very unusual wall standing out from the rest and checks it out, right on the other side. Cleo is standing, completely shocked by Granfell suddenly popping out of nowhere. He coolly tells her that the illusion magic is quite impressive. Soon after, Granfell walks up the grand stairs alongside Cleo, who still has no idea who he actually is. Believing all invitees had arrived, this random stranger deeply surprises her. Sensing the young guide's obvious discomfort, Granfell casually asks, "What is wrong?" Feeling quite embarrassed, Cleo quickly answers that everything is totally fine. She just admits it is odd that he lacks an official invitation. Still, she guides him onward. In her mind, she keeps wondering about how he managed this, since the Tower Master cast that heavy illusion. An uninvited mage should never be able to pierce through such a barrier. Wondering about the rules, Granfell asks if they will turn him away for not bringing a physical pass. Cleo reassures him that anyone who sees through the powerful illusion is allowed to enter anyway. She then adds, "Believe it or not, he is the first person to ever pull this off," leaving her completely amazed. Granfell, however, is secretly focused on copying that clever magic, but realizes he definitely needs to level up his stats before trying to cast it. Climbing the final steps, they reach the peak where Cleo formally welcomes him to the Crystal Hall, introducing it as the grand center of magical research. Ever since Arcana merged with reality, the legendary game characters also materialized. In our world, the most influential figure among them is the Rising Head Mage Morello, who stands as the designated successor of the tower. He certainly earns his grand reputation, being the fastest to adapt to this changing world while utilizing his deep magical knowledge to create brilliant new ideas. He is even leads the Magic Society. While Jessie's enchanted hat explains this, she shows that she finds it incredibly boring, which irritates the hat. Jessie replies that the explanation is just making her sleepy, because to her, magic is just a skill she knows nothing about inspection or interference. Her quiet boredom is eventually noticed by the head mage, who asks if his words are really that uninteresting. Morello explains that the tower was summoned to this world for two reasons, one of them being interference, what the explorers call an update, and they are recurring. The mage says that humans are not used to real magic, just as the Acadians have difficulty understanding the explorers' science. Therefore, he claims that to help each other, both sides must make an effort. This is why the topic of the meeting is science, as he saw in it a possibility to develop magic. He then demonstrates what he calls a fusion, an ignition created by uniting science and magic. However, he warns them to be cautious when handling something like this, since he does not yet know the types of variables it could involve. For this reason, Morello states that he needs everyone's help. Finally, he invites those present to ask any questions. Immediately after, the main character raises his hand, telling the mage he noticed unnecessary elements in the recent demonstration and asks what Morello thinks about it. The head mage is caught completely by surprise with the question, and not just him, but everyone present is shocked to see someone openly questioning Morello. The head mage notices he is looking at an unfamiliar face, but he reflects on the question. He responds by asking the protagonist why he believes. There are unnecessary elements in his teaching. The protagonist claims it is simple and says he can feel a certain friction, explaining that magic and science are different concepts, and the unnecessary elements arise from that friction in the process of combining the two. After his explanation, the protagonist performs the same experiment as the head mage, claiming to have experienced a similar friction between skill and magic. The scene leaves the mage totally speechless. It took him months to accomplish something like that, while a complete stranger did the same thing just by observing it once. The protagonist explains that although using centrifugal force in the interference process makes the process flawed, the results are not bad. Hoyeol reflects that the original ignition consumed far too much mana, and that is why he did not want to use it, but using centrifugal force made the technique much more efficient. He concludes that he made an excellent choice in deciding to go to that meeting. At that moment, the mage concludes that this person can only be the explorer he has heard so much about. Hoyeol, he resolves to invite him to join his research. The proposal automatically transforms into a quest in the protagonist's system, giving him the option to accept or decline. What would you do in his shoes? A while after the first explorers arrived at the Yuzra archipelago, one of them is incredibly excited. She is with Lenny, saying this reminds her of when they were both full of dreams about new adventures. She also mentioned she should have brought a swimsuit, but Lean insists they are not on vacation. Besides, the guild leader notes they are not the first to arrive, since plenty of people are already right there. Her guildmate plants a kiss on her cheek, saying she looks incredibly cute when mad. Meanwhile, another member finds it strange that so many people have gathered here. Not just humans are showing up, there are also Acadians around. When asked if those are just NPCs, he simply points toward the Lion Heart Knights. Alongside those knights, troops from the Shadow Mercenaries have also arrived. Members of the Explorer Alliance are here too, making it quite a crowd. Leon notes that this legendary archipelago is famous for treasure, explaining the massive crowd. Still, she hates the extra competition, though her guildmate quickly reassures her. At least those annoying tower mages are absent, but right then, Leon gets a call. An excited mage reports that she just spotted Hoyeol at the magic tower. Even Wilder, he actually went ahead and challenged the tower master himself. Leon bursts out laughing, calling Hoyeol completely insane for doing something like that. Honestly, she already knew he was out of his mind during their meeting. Her ally realizes the guild leader is clearly still holding a massive grudge. Surprisingly, the tower leader accepted Hoyeol and even handed him a special mission. Naturally, this leaves everyone else green with envy. Meanwhile, Morello makes a generous offer. He tells Hoyeol to list whatever he needs, promising to provide everything. And honestly, who wouldn't be? He can literally ask for anything he wants. He fully intends to abuse this golden opportunity. Soon, Morello is summoned to the top floor. There, the highest-ranking 5-star mage of the tower waits for him. The elder acknowledges Morello as a rising star, but quickly brings up a rumor. He heard Morello brought an outside explorer in to assist with an important project. By doing so, Morello broke the strict rule against interfering with explorer affairs. Naturally, the High Mage demands a proper explanation for this sudden rule breaking. Morello confidently argues that this explorer, Hoyeol, truly understands the core of magic. He explains that Hoyeol has completely bridged the gap between magic and science. Ignoring the valuable help of someone so uniquely gifted is simply not an option. The High Mage reminds Morello that they must judge these matters very carefully. He expects the young genius to be fully aware of his own actions. While he respects Morello's choice, there are always heavy consequences. He must carry the full weight of any fallout. With that, he is dismissed. Morello leaves, deeply annoyed by the elder mage's cold attitude. Those old fools have absolutely no clue what is happening in the real world. He wonders how much longer the Tower Master intends to remain completely silent. Just then, Cleo happily approaches Morello on her way to collect some supplies. These are the exact items Lee Hoyle requested for his upcoming research. Morello offers to deliver them, but Cleo declines, knowing how busy he is. Still, Morello insists, claiming he was already heading to see Lee Hoyle anyway. He has something to check, so Cleo happily hands over the supply package. Meanwhile, our brilliant protagonist, Lee Hoyle, is deeply focused on his studies. Suddenly, Morello arrives bearing the highly anticipated list of requested items. He brought rare magical gear designed for fast mana regeneration, which is perfect. Wait for it. As he inspects the gear, he quickly realizes there is a massive catch. The requirements are way too high for him, making them completely useless right now. Morello quickly apologizes, deeply embarrassed for underestimating the legendary explorer's needs. Morello admits those requests got him pretty curious, prompting him to prepare something. He prepared something special, a unique hexagon brooch that speeds up mana regeneration. Lee Hoyle analyzes it, fits perfectly. It has some highly useful stats, so he agrees to take it. Morello notes he already knew Lee Hoyle was special, but this is next level. The young man constantly keeps him on his toes. Lee Hoyle quietly observes the brooch. It looks somewhat plain and cheap, but the mage's description proves it is highly valuable. He quickly realizes this item is way stronger than it seems. Meanwhile, though, Morello admits his research is temporarily stalled. He lacks the exact magical depth Lee Hoyle described earlier. Hearing that, Lee Hoyle calmly promises to wait until they can resume. Morello warmly thanks Lee Hoyle for his patience, truly believing they will change the entire magic tower. Back over at the archipelago, a popular streamer named Hai Gang is live again. He is currently camped out, eagerly waiting for Lee Hoyle to show up. He tells his viewers that crowds of high-level players are pouring through the portals. Hai Gang is confident the protagonist will arrive soon, swearing he won't leave. But when Lee Hoyle's name is mentioned, a dangerous player walks up. His name is Kinver, and honestly, the vibes around this guy are instantly off. He cannot stand that everyone is only focused on Lee Hoyle. See, a ruthless guild emerged right after Arcana became real, and they do whatever it takes. Absolutely nothing will stop them, wherever they appear. Trouble is guaranteed to follow, and rumor has it Kinver is their cruelest member. Word is multiple players who entered rifts alongside this group have vanished completely. Now the fact that Kinver is taking an active interest in Lee Hoyle is raising major red flags. He creeps up, warning it won't be very funny if Lee Hoyle overplays his little clown routine. Before walking off, Kinver warns he will be watching the stream closely. The moment he leaves, chat explodes. Viewers are completely panicked, begging Lee Hoyle to stay far away from this place. Annoyed by the fear-mongering, the streamer immediately defends the protagonist's honor. Lee Hoyle is not driven by simple greed, and he will show up eventually. At that very moment, Granfell asks the protagonist why they should even go to the archipelago. Lee Hoyle points out there is zero reason, since despite all the legendary loot, his level is still far too low to enter. The rift requires level 350, while he is only 134. On top of that, the monsters dwelling there are on a completely different level. Facing them now would guarantee a swift and brutal defeat, which he wants to avoid. Besides, it is extremely rare for any demons to surface in that specific area. Just then, a major, class-exclusive system quest suddenly triggers. It is an exclusive quest for his class to investigate the 7 deadly sins. Lee Hoyle knows how dangerous they are from his memories, but he never expected them to hide in the Yusra archipelago, honestly defeating. That previous count was sheer luck, so hunting another threat feels suicidal. But Granfell is having none of it. He declares that while they had no purpose to travel there earlier, the stakes have entirely changed. There is no room for hesitation when absolute evil is waiting to be purged. Right away, Granfell prepares for the trip. Hoyeol is in absolute despair. He is not even wearing clothes that fit a hot, tropical environment. Soon after, Hoyeol's biggest fan streamer is relieved his idol finally showed up. On the inside, Hoyeol is dying of heat. Granfell remains completely stoic. Granfell only senses the heavy presence of pure, unadulterated evil surrounding them. This intense dark influence is on a whole different level compared to normal demons. Sensing this massive threat, he considers that the entire island itself is the source. Therefore, he decides to keep his natural enemy skill active at all times. While exploring the wild area, the eager streamer tags along right behind him. He wants to capture every single moment of his absolute favorite hero. Our protagonist is not thrilled about this. Still, he has bigger problems right now. He desperately needs to find weak monsters he can actually fight at his level. Meanwhile, the stream chat warns the guy that he is annoying Hoyeol. But he does not care, claiming that people are totally wrong about him. He honestly believes he is practically invisible, so he cannot be bothering anyone. Just then, the protagonist hears a sharp noise. It startles even the streamer. Close by, a desperate group of players is facing some dangerous enemies. They are struggling against a level 420 emerald tiger. The beast reflects the blazing sunlight so intensely that it completely blinds them. Its savage attacks violently shake the ground. One player screams a frantic warning. He yells that their group must not split up under any circumstances. But get this, our protagonist suddenly appears, and the players instantly recognize him. They ask what he is doing there. Honestly, Hoyeol wonders the same. Granfell wanted to fight a minor scorpion to warm up, but this tiger works. With the enemy level so incredibly high, Hoyeol knows he cannot escape. His inner character, Granfell, simply notes that things look pretty bad. The blinding sunlight is a problem. To solve this minor inconvenience, he acts. He instantly shatters the ground beneath the beast so it cannot move. This sudden, devastating move leaves the nearby players completely and utterly stunned. Right in the heat of battle, he decides to test his new magic. He activates Master Marcelo's ignition. Boom, the tiger is completely pulverized. He receives a decent contribution share, but his real joy is the magic. Its insane power completely surprised him. Talk about a major upgrade. The watching players are also perplexed that a strong enemy died so easily. Elsewhere on the archipelago, Shrike from the Second Sun Guild is absolutely furious. He snaps at his group. They are still stuck on the outskirts. A guild member suggests they regroup, explaining that another guild is moving fast. He heard news that the rival Shining Guild is already at the heart of the island. Meanwhile, their own progress is halted because their forces are spread too thin. Shrike's master plan was to divide and conquer, but he realizes he messed up. He would never admit it, but his greed made him underestimate this dangerous territory. Gritting his teeth, he orders everyone to fall back to their starting position. Just then, a scout reports an urgent call from the Western team. Shrike offers to go meet them directly, but is told they are already coming. Completely baffled by this, the leader demands an immediate explanation. It turns out Hoyeol had already swept through their route, which is why. They had to find another path, while Shrike is still trying to process this, another. Subordinate arrives with a fresh report from their scout at the mages. He reports that Hoyeol accepted a special quest directly from the head of the mages and will likely be the first player to unlock a personal laboratory in the tower, refusing to believe a player could form such a strong bond with an NPC. Shrike immediately orders his analysis team to dig up everything on the matter. He now suspects that Hoyeol is far more dangerous than the media suggests. Meanwhile, Hoyeol is quietly celebrating his rewards from the last clash. Though his character stays cold and stoic, he is secretly thrilled about. securing a unique ingredient with his new connections inside the mages. Tower finding someone to process it should be a breeze, but suddenly, Granfell senses the heavy atmosphere. His sharp instincts immediately alert Lei Hoyeol that trouble is brewing. Right on cue, a system window pops up, warning him to investigate the 7 deadly sins. Right after, a violent earthquake erupts right beside him. The system alerts the protagonist that the island has been consumed by greed and is already starting to collapse. All the other players get the exact same warning as the ground shakes, while some are totally panicked. Granfell knows exactly what is happening. He realizes that the endless greed of players hunting for treasures across the island has awakened the sleeping force behind this earthquake. Granfell deduces that the newly awakened beast is none other than the demon of greed, something his elite demon hunters of Ashan would know. He also notes that if the progress bar hits 100%, the deadly sins will fully awaken. The protagonist knows he has to prevent this catastrophe, finding comfort in the fact that the system says to stop the process, not eliminate it entirely. But he soon learns that the Shining Guild already cleared another island and looted its treasure. Listening to nearby players hunting for loot, he realizes that everyone on this archipelago wants the exact same thing. Granfell declares that to avoid giving in to greed, players must throw away all desire, yet he admits that is virtually impossible. Faced with this reality, he sees only one logical path: sweep up every single treasure before anyone else can. Meanwhile, the Shining Guild has already made landfall on the second island. Camilla points out the destruction meter, explaining there are 10 islands in total and 1 slot filled up the moment they grabbed that first treasure. This means they are on a tight countdown to secure the rest. Locke thinks this might connect to Jesse's earlier report about Lee Hoyeol at the tower, noting how hyper-competitive the guy can be. He then asks the group if they honestly think they can take him. Data replies that she wants absolutely no trouble with him, and Camilla agrees, adding that regular enemies are already a handful anyway. Plus, Camilla suspects that Jesse wouldn't even fight Lee Hoyeol, assuming her friend is deeply in love with him. Locke agrees with their logic, admitting he is just envious and adding there is no reason to attack someone who minds their own business. But right after he says that, another slot on the destruction meter. Deer notes a very interesting detail. The Unified Under Heaven Guild took the treasure. This changes everything. Meanwhile, Locke is completely terrified of being left behind. He insists they must move immediately. Back with our protagonist, Lee Hoyeol. Lee Hoyeol questions Granfell. What does he mean by taking all the treasure? Granfell responds calmly. Endless greed will eventually destroy everything in its path. Therefore, the only option is to snatch the treasures from their greedy hands. Right after, he encounters a strange group. Their armor looks incredibly familiar. He recognizes them. They are the legendary Knights of Lion Heart. These are the Empire's finest warriors. Granfell greets their powerful leader. This is Captain Harkin of the King's Guard. He acts very politely. He requests our hero's name, and Hoyeol introduces himself directly. He expresses immense surprise at encountering the legendary Imperial Knights in this place. Harkin instantly senses something, a vastly different, powerful aura from him. It differs completely from other players, but then something else stands out. The captain spots the brooch Lee Hoyeol is wearing, but a sudden shock interrupts them. An unexpected attack strikes out of nowhere, barely missing the main character. Confused by the impact, one of the knights guesses it is a meteor. In reality, it is the island boss, a level 450 monster. The giant golden fang turtle appears. The captain orders immediate battle preparation. They realize an attack is imminent. The captain shouts for everyone to scatter. Get ready, because the beast's destructive power is absolutely off the charts. Thick dust blinds the knights completely, preventing them from approaching. Its colossal size makes it impossible to target, Amidst this chaos, the captain panics. He spots his right-hand man, Enoch, about to be crushed to pieces. In absolute desperation, the captain screams for his close ally to escape. Suddenly, the massive turtle stomps down, sending a violent shockwave through the area. Once the dust clears, the captain is stunned by what he sees. Our hero saved his ally. Hoyeol conjured a massive wall out of nothing. The shocked knights have endless questions, but he tells them there is no time. The beast prepares for another attack. The captain orders the squires to defend. The squires form their defenses. Meanwhile, our hero makes a move. Hoyeol realizes he must carefully conserve his remaining mana pool. Then Captain Harkin approaches him. He offers deep gratitude for the assistance. He makes a solemn promise if our hero fights alongside them to the end. The Knights of Lionheart swear they will repay this incredible favor forever. Since this is exactly the support he needs, Hoyeol accepts without hesitation. Working together gives them a much better chance to destroy the beast. From a safe distance, an obsessed streamer records this entire legendary fight. Honestly, you have to appreciate the hustle of getting this wild footage. His live chat warns him about the extreme danger of standing so close. However, he reassures them that he is keeping a perfectly safe distance. Back on the front lines, the commander orders his knights to charge forward. As they attack with honor, the protagonist carefully analyzes the opponent. He determines that the massive turtle's primary weak point is its head. Therefore, striking its giant legs first is the smartest way to bring it down. To the top, nearby, Enoch stares at Hoyeol, looking completely terrified. Enoch is grateful for the assist, but this feels like a major stretch. A captain swearing loyalty to a mere explorer is a right usually saved for royalty. Now watching the knights charge into battle, Hoyeol observes them closely. At first, he honestly thinks these guys are a lot weaker than expected. But he quickly realizes the truth. This beast is on an entirely different level. The knights can barely scratch it. They are all close combat fighters. Only the front line can actually strike, while the rest just stand around waiting. Hoyeol knows that if this drag on, they are going to lose. But get this, to make things even worse, a sudden system warning pops up. The island's destruction level has already reached the halfway point. He realizes other players are moving much faster than he ever anticipated. The final catastrophe is approaching, and it's coming fast. While he tries to figure out how to create an opening for them, the furious boss triggers a massive earthquake, causing magma to burst from below. The knights scramble to retreat, but there is barely any solid footing left. Chaos erupts, but amidst the panic, Hoyeol gets a brilliant idea. Recalling the Grand Mage Tower, he asks the knight captain if they are ready. He promises to pave their way, then, manipulating the shattered rocks, he builds a massive staircase leading straight to the monster's giant head. Honestly, this mind-blowing move leaves everyone completely speechless, including the knights and the streamer. Their own mage admits she has only ever seen magic like this inside the tower. Enoch is totally dumbfounded that a simple explorer can pull this off, which only feeds his growing doubts about the mysterious explorer. Captain Harkin declares the path open, urging his squad to charge immediately. They cannot afford to waste this perfect opportunity with time running out. Striking the beast's weak point over and over, they deal massive damage. Right in the heat of battle, a system alert flashes for Hoyeol. It turns out Captain Harkin and his knights have willingly surrendered. Their entire contribution share for taking down this massive giant turtle. This means Hoyeol gets the full credit, leaving him thoroughly confused. After the victory, Captain Harkin slowly walks up to the protagonist. He explains that the distinct brooch on Hoyeol's chest is a historic gift. A long time ago, the Emperor himself presented it to the Mage Tower. Harkin says Hoyeol saved countless lives today, and they are forever grateful. Plus, the loyal knights offer to fight by his side whenever he calls. Right after this heart-to-heart, a glowing orb of pure energy manifests. Lee Hoyeol immediately recognizes this as the legendary island treasure. He hesitates to grab it, worried it might fuel his own greed. Still, if he leaves it, some greedy rival player will surely snatch it up. Checking the map, he sees the destruction scale creeping past the halfway point. He wants to think it over, but his body has other plans. His absolute noble persona, Granfell, acts instantly and claims the treasure. Defying his inner logic, Granfell takes it because wealth means absolutely nothing to him. As the proud heir to a legendary family, he has already tasted true luxury. So yeah, the feeling of greed simply does not exist inside Granfell. He believes he has the perfect plan to save the island from total ruin. Just claim the legendary treasure without letting even a shred of greed take hold. Lee Hoyeol is suddenly struck by his own greed, wondering if that is even possible. Is that even possible? Meanwhile, watching closely from a distance, the protagonist is being watched by his bitter enemy, Kinver, who spots his every move with the Lionheart Knights. Kinver assumes that Lee Hoyeol can keep grabbing his little treasures, but his reckoning is coming very soon. Right then, one of Kinver's surviving victims desperately tries to crawl up, warning him that the Shrike of Second Sun will find him. Those are his absolute final words as Kinver takes his life, adding another player to the grave. Kinver is pretty sure this brutal display of force is more than enough to wipe out every single competitor at once. Over elsewhere, the obsessed streamer goes wild, watching Lee Hoyeol take the treasure with absolutely zero greed meter rising. But as soon as Lee Hoyeol inspects the actual loot, he is completely disappointed. Despite being an epic tier treasure, it is just a broken crown. He wanted actual loot, not a stupid joke of an item. Suddenly, a system notification alerts him that the Lionheart Knights have joined his official party. Their powerful captain, Harken King's Guard, formally vows to follow Lee Hoyeol from this moment on, keeping the solemn promise he once made. Lee Hoyeol, who had completely brushed that promise off, realizes they are actual allies. Captain Harken King's Guard admits he might not fully understand their grand goals, but he swears to be his ultimate sword and shield in this archipelago. Talk about a massive upgrade our hero is quietly thrilled to have the finest knights on the entire continent fighting right by his side. With them, no monster stands a chance. He gladly welcomes them to the team. Not too far away, Kinver is still keeping a very close eye on them. When his partner asks why the island's destruction progress has not shifted yet, Kinver simply laughs it off. He explains that even though Lee Hoyeol is a tough opponent with backup, a nasty surprise is already waiting for him. Down at the docks, the second they step onto a boat, a deadly toxin will strike. Kinver is completely confident that even those knights cannot stop this trap, rendering his treasures useless. But suddenly the protagonist looks straight up into a tree, making Kinver completely lose his cool. Just the intense glare from Lee Hoyeol sends a wave of pure terror right through him. He is totally busted, or is he? In reality, our hero was just watching a cute little animal in the branches. But Harken King's Guard spots something else entirely and warns him about a hidden spy in the trees, making Kinver sweat. After the warning, Lee Hoyeol tries to spot the threat, but he only sees a tiny squirrel, leaving him completely baffled. His focus shifts when a system alert reveals only 2 treasures are left before total destruction occurs, since he took one without triggering the island's greed meter. He knows there is only one left for the other players to claim. Now he has to secure that final treasure before anyone else gets close. Even though he thinks the destruction rate will not hit its peak, Harken, the King's Guard, promises to do whatever our main character commands. Still, frozen in shock, Kinver is too terrified to even speak to his ally on the radio. In his mind, he believes that the King's Guard wanted to capture him, but Lee Hoyeol chose to move on, leaving him unsure if it was pity or Caution, whatever the reason, he realizes he almost died and decides to abandon the mission. He warns his allies to stay out of Lee Hoyeol's way if they want to survive, which completely outrages his ally, Park Hyunjun. He doesn't understand this sudden change and fumes because Kinver just hung up on him. He is furious, having invested and even borrowed cash to buy the poison Kinver requested, only for him to back out now when his subordinate tries to calm him down. Park Hyunjun snaps back that staying calm is easy, since they are not the ones paying out of their own pockets. Despite his allies attempting to calm him, he accuses them of acting way too relaxed and starts to suspect they plotted with Kinver behind his back. Ignoring their denials, Park Hyunjun demands to know how much profit they pocketed. The massive commotion caused by Park Hyunjun startles some nearby birds, and the noise catches our main character's attention. The captain asks if something is wrong, but Lee Hoyeol cannot say for sure. Right then, a danger warning pops up. Just like before, but this one signals a massive, terrifying threat. His legendary demon hunter instincts scream of absolute danger. Meanwhile, Park Hyunjun snaps completely and starts attacking his own allies. One of them shouts that Park Hyunjun was always money mad, but this is pure insanity. Park Hyunjun screams back that they took dirty bribes to side with Kinver, and look, a sneaky streamer is hiding nearby. Broadcasting the entire fight live, he records the moment Park Hyunjun tells his allies he is only reclaiming what they stole from him. Terrified, the streamer flees as fast as his legs can carry him. The Supernova Guild is completely unhinged, and the deadly rumors about them are totally true. The streamer knows he is dead if they spot him, so he tries to sneak away. In his desperate rush, he crashes straight into someone else, members of the Explorers Alliance, and a member asks the terrified kid if some beast is chasing him. The streamer finally breathes a sigh of relief. He figures that even a maniac who kills his own teammates for cash would never dare to fight an entire guild all by himself, so he decides to stick close to the group to stay safe. During the exploration of the giant archipelago, drones hover overhead. It is announced that the territory is divided into 10 islands, and each holds a hidden treasure. The exact method to find each one varies, ranging from super easy to brutally difficult. The Shining Guild and Explorers Alliance have already claimed their first treasures. Now, only one island remains where many different players and guilds have gathered. Among the very first to arrive are the elite members of the Shining Guild, who already secured 2 massive treasures. The Korean Guild Gaeon also managed to claim 1 treasure and searches for its second. Also present is the Inazuma Guild, which almost snagged a treasure, but Gaeon reached the island first and had far better luck. The rivals second Sun and the Berserker Guild have finally reached the last island, with everyone waiting to see who will claim the ultimate treasure. Meanwhile, online streamers broadcast every second. But a sudden twist leaves the entire audience completely speechless. The Knights of Lionheart suddenly make their grand entrance. Nobody ever expected the Empire's most powerful force to join the treasure hunt. To make matters worse, their legendary captain, Harken King's Guard, is rumored to be above level 600. For low-tier players, the situation is utterly hopeless, but the real shock comes when Lee Hoyeol suddenly steps out from the middle of the Imperial ranks. The mysterious hero immediately steals the spotlight, looking incredibly calm and focused as always. He carries himself with absolute confidence, but behind that cold, stoic mask, our guy is absolutely screaming internally. He knew all eyes would be on him. Yet that does not make this overwhelming pressure any easier to handle. Some rankers mark him as a dangerous rival, while the clever ones decide it is best to avoid him entirely. Lee Hoyeol's ultimate nightmare is anyone finding out he is actually just a low-level newbie, which would instantly ruin the legendary reputation the media has built up around him. Right then, the towering Commander Harkin warns him of a massive threat nearby. Suddenly, boiling lava starts bursting from the earth, throwing every player into a state of panic. Everyone scrambles to escape the rising heat, but for some unlucky souls, it is already far too late. A monstrous shadow rises to ambush the entire crowd, revealing the island's ultimate boss, the fearsome lava koi, sitting at level 420. Beyond the terrifying monster itself, the blistering heat alone makes moving around almost impossible. Instead of rushing into a deadly fight, several players decide to just watch. They attempt to land long-range strikes to keep their distance, but a massive shield of magma blocks every single spell, leaving the guilds completely helpless. Meanwhile, the hot-headed Nam Taman refuses to sit back, despite his brother's warnings to cool down. The streaming drones broadcast the chaotic scene from a safe distance, capturing every brutal moment. They point out that even the heavily armored vanguard tanks refuse to approach that boiling lake. Right in the middle of this disaster, the legendary Commander Harkin approaches Hoyeol and sincerely apologizes for being unable to assist him despite his previous promise. But our stoic hero tells him not to worry, acting like everything is completely fine. Didn't lead them into this hellscape without a strategy, the Shining Guild leader notices. His incredible calm, utterly baffled by how anyone could stay this relaxed in such a disaster. But Hoyeol's mind is working overtime. He knows spellcasting requires 3 distinct steps: the deep inspection, active interference, and finally, the ultimate manifestation of magic. He realizes that the molten sea surrounding the giant koi isn't some active skill, but simply a natural element belonging to the very environment of this island. Because of his unique Granfell class, this boiling magma is just a natural setting to him. No different than common dirt, he casually starts raising the entire ocean of lava. Right before everyone's eyes, not just the shocked rankers on the field, but also millions of online viewers watch this mind-blowing display in sheer disbelief. If people were curious about his strength before, they are completely obsessed now. But behind that cold facade, Hoyeol's only real thought is that his mana is dropping to 0. He silently urges Harkin to take this chance and strike the beast. The massive floating wall of fire narrowly misses the streaming drones overhead. Though the broadcasters are far too excited by the insane spectacle to care, Harkin, the King's Guard, announces that the path is cleared, meaning it is finally the knight's turn to strike. Meanwhile, Lox realizes his lack of focus has put him at a serious disadvantage, ordering his guild to charge, yet they are not the only ones. The other guilds charge too. Taman's brother warns that defeating a legendary warrior like Harkin is an impossible task, and that they must be the first to strike. To his surprise, the enemy does not wait, refusing to stay grounded, leaping up high to use its heavy fall as a crushing blow. They thought it was just a fish, but they were wrong. This beast is far smarter than expected, as the monster leaps relentlessly without ever staying still. Getting close is incredibly tough, making the battle even tougher. But look, what is that suddenly stopping its leap? Spears made of solid rock pierce the monster, pinning it down. The heroes can barely tell where they came from until someone realizes the protagonist did this. He cooled down the lava, turning it into a weapon without understanding how. This action completely shattered the standard mana limits set by the system. Anyway, the protagonist signals for Harkin King's Guard to attack. With the beast trapped and completely helpless, it becomes incredibly easy prey. Even though Harkin landed the killing blow, nearby explorers still get some credit for the win. Lox is deeply embarrassed his guild missed the top spot. He orders his men to retreat, but the watching crowd celebrates wildly because the giant monster is finally dead. Hoyeol secures the highest contribution rate. Alongside the legendary Lion Heart Knights, his calm face looks quite carefree to most people, but he is actually just exhausted from a severe lack of mana. Since he earned the highest contribution rating, a rare reward is granted to Hoy, making the island's treasure officially his. But right after He claims a strange event shocks all the watching players. The progress rate is missing. Seriously, why is the system glitched? Amid the confusion, dark aura begins to rise. Suddenly, the delayed destruction progress meter finally appears, showing that only one single level is left to clear. Li Hoi realizes that Granfell would never suddenly become greedy, so this treasure should not have impacted the progress, but he soon confirms the worst. This is exactly what happened, and the treasure was taken by a greedy hand. Meanwhile, back at the Explorers Alliance Guild, several elite members have just been brutally beaten by Park Hunjun, who stole their precious treasure. The guild leader is absolutely furious, but his ally tries to quiet him down. Near the stolen treasure, Park Hunjun starts feeling strange as his head aches painfully. He is completely losing his mind. The capital demon of greed has possessed him, taking total control of his body. This was only possible due to Park Hyunjin's own intense avarice, placing him in a demonic being's grasp. His mind wide open to evil control, the demon claims it only helped Park Hyunjin get his desire, and now it is its turn to take what it wants. Seeing this terrifying scene, someone tries to step in. The streamer obsessed with the protagonist is visibly shaken with absolute terror. Then, he realizes a warrior from Lion Heart has arrived, meaning that Li Hoyle must be close by. Meanwhile, the protagonist senses the demon. Sensing them from afar, he wastes zero time closing in. Thrilled, the streamer declares he has waited for this moment, announcing the grand return of his live stream. Meanwhile, a Lionheart warrior warns that the target is still breathing, urging Li Hoyle to order the charge. Right then, a new quest triggers for Li Hoyle. The system alerts him that a great evil on the Yusra archipelago is waking up, and he is the one who has to stop it. Worse yet, the enemy still holds the stolen treasure. His system warns him that the artifact is rotting with pure greed. His absolute mission is to halt the corruption before the unleashed devastation consumes the entire region. The world begins to crumble. Terrified explorers scramble for safety. They realize this threat is way more terrifying than any boss they fought before. The creature unleashes a devastating assault, triggering massive earthquakes across the land. Its colossal body expands rapidly, casting a giant shadow over the entire archipelago. Drones capture the chaos from above. Streamers watch in absolute shock as the islands literally merge together, while something massive begins rising from the center. Right in the middle of this new super island, a majestic golden castle appears. The sudden sight leaves everyone stunned, even impressing the veteran knight Captain Harkin. Li Hoyle has never seen anything like this, wondering to himself if the Gold Palace is another ancient treasure of the archipelago, but then his system warns him that this is the castle of greed, the nest of a deadly sin. The overwhelming pressure radiating from the fortress makes Li Hoyle hesitate to step closer. Meanwhile, Harkin senses a powerful and looming danger creeping up on them. He orders his knights to prepare for battle. Right after, a terrified warrior screams to watch the ground as a horde of undead begins rising. This chaotic mixture of a golden castle and rising zombies drives the streamers crazy, knowing this insane footage will blow up their channels. However, one of them gets an urgent alert and warns everyone to stop celebrating. Meanwhile, at UAA headquarters, absolute panic erupts as the staff realizes the scale of this massive crisis. They must stop it now or everyone dies. Still, the only thing they can do is broadcast an emergency system update, reading the alert. Li Hoyle is stunned. The enemy levels are absurdly high, even the legendary knights of the Lionheart Guild will struggle here. This mission seems completely impossible, with the weakest minions at level 500 and the boss at 650. The captain of the Lionheart Knights tries to maintain formation for a tactical retreat to keep Li Hoyle safe. However, the proud protagonist steps forward and asks Harkin if his oath to be his sword and shield still stands. Harkin replies that the target is a literal deadly sin, asking if Li Hoyeol still wants to wage this impossible war. The young hunter confirms, stating that demons must be put down. There is no other choice. Hearing this, Harkin admits he sees zero fear in Li Hoyol's eyes, though. Deep down, our hero is actually shaking with absolute terror. Moved, the captain rallies his knights, declaring that they will honor their sacred vows at any cost, and carve a path straight to the enemy's lair. Watching the tense scene play out, the streamers and their viewers watch in absolute, stunned disbelief. The dangerous path ahead is completely choked with the undead, yet they charge anyway. Facing this obstacle, the protagonist orders his Lionheart Knights to push forward. Over at the UAA headquarters, the staff realizes that despite their warning, someone is coming. They are approaching the castle, defying all expectations. Li Hoyeol charges ahead. His Lionheart Knights follow closely behind him. He fights in front of global media. Live streams broadcast everything. Meanwhile, the UAA desperately tries to isolate the castle and keep others from approaching. He advances. He notices something unexpected now. The knights are fighting incredibly well. They really are the absolute best around. They are the continent's finest. He focuses on regenerating his mana to help. Nearby explorers consider joining them, but then they remember. They nearly died fighting the lava fish. This will be no different. To them, the mission is impossible. Hoyeol will surely perish. It is only a matter of time. The protagonist realizes the danger. The undead return endlessly. Killing them is totally useless. They are already dead. Worse still, his mana is depleted. But wait, a sudden brilliant light catches everyone off guard, surprising even Li Hoyeol himself as the mighty Nam Tammin arrives to help. He is not alone. The Berserker Guild also joins the fray. This alliance between Gaon and Berserker quickly hits the news as players assist Li Hoyeol, though their hot-headed leaders still cannot stop clashing. The sudden help surprises Li Hoyeol, but his character takes over. He proudly approaches the leaders. He demands their immediate help. This attitude drives him crazy. Asking so directly feels incredibly rude. Leonie Balalichksai states that although she feels indebted to him, she would have appreciated a bit more kindness from him. Meanwhile, Tammin's brother sees his chance to make a great impression. However, Hoyeol only notices one thing: both leaders look highly nervous. But here's the thing: those fallen undead are already standing back up. The Lionheart warriors jump back in, while Tammin requests a blessing from his clerics. They will need divine protection against these monsters. The protagonist quickly approaches Lean, saying the Lionheart Knights also need a holy blessing like that, admitting he has no tea to offer, but desperately needs her help. Right on time, even more backup arrives. The Saints of Gaon announce they will fully support Li Hoyeol to fight without worry, leaving Lin shocked they responded so quickly. With these key reinforcements, the Lionheart Knights gain renewed energy. To battle their enemies, the protagonist promises Tammin he will never forget his goodwill. Tammin replies he will secure whatever he needs, even if it means getting direct divine protection. However, Hoyeol proudly claims he does not believe in foolish deities. He is privately furious. His character's tongue is sharper than usual. Harkin overhears this statement and gets distracted, hearing a strange voice. He envisions a grand divine being before him, associating it with his majesty. But in truth, a terrifying enemy approaches. Harkin tries to resist. He warns the others that the palace gates are extremely dangerous. In his mind, Harkin remembers the exact promise made to his majesty, standing right before the emperor. He reported that the demon general had been spotted in the northwestern valleys and volunteered to ride out immediately. However, the ruler showed no interest. He flatly dismissed the idea, claiming that thousands of soldiers would perish at the hands of those demons all at once, leaving the army completely depleted. On top of that, the prestigious Mage Tower investigating the threat had already fallen into absolute ruin. Worse still, the common people of the nation had suddenly vanished without a single trace. The emperor confessed he questioned his god every single night, asking if this was the end of days and if it was the divine will, but the silent heavens never answered. Thus, the monarch believed that even the Almighty had decided to abandon them, asking if Harkon felt the same. But Harkon fiercely argued that the demons were simply blocking the path to their lord. With that resolve, he once again vowed to destroy the demon general, believing that by doing so, the heavens would look upon them once more. But to his absolute surprise, the emperor quietly confessed that he no longer believed in a god. His faith rested entirely on Harkon's iron will to overcome the encroaching evil. Back in the present, the brutal clash between light and darkness continues to rage. The moment he regains consciousness, the captain yells for his soldiers to press forward, for his sovereign, the emperor, is counting on them. It takes only a moment for Harkon to spot his true enemy across the battlefield, the demon general, charging ahead. He hopes to slice him down, but the fiend merely mocks him with a wicked grin. Claiming it is far too late, Harkon cannot reach his opponent in time. Not only that, but his loyal troops are suddenly struck down by an invisible, terrifying force. The captain is left reeling in utter despair, realizing he has failed in his sacred duty. Instantly, those on the battlefield are teleported directly into the bustling center of the explorer's city. Harkon stands totally dazed, unable to understand what has happened or where he is. The locals have seen such anomalies before, so they barely even flinch. But for our captain, this is absolute madness. Still, his mind clings to a single obsession, finding his way back to His Majesty. Then he spots a familiar royal silhouette standing right in front of him. Harkon cries out that he has searched everywhere for his lord, only to find His Majesty was close by all along. He begs forgiveness for the delay and vows to fulfill his oath by destroying every single one of the enemies, threatening his emperor's absolute reign. What Harkon does not realize is that he is trapped inside a powerful illusion, completely manipulated by the very foe he swore to defeat, even his closest king's guard. Allies notice something is deeply wrong, though they cannot fathom what triggered this state. But our main character, Li Hoi, understands the situation instantly. He only deeply regrets that the victim of this curse had to be the captain. This looks like a severe mind domination status, which is far trickier to handle than standard demonic possession. While Li Hoi is briefly distracted by these dark thoughts, the crazed Harkon lunges directly at him, stopped only at the last second, because Nam Tamon steps in, looking pretty pleased to shield his ally. The young hero merely responds with a freezing glare, completely shattering the man's proud expectations. Cold look aside, Li Hoi knows that if it were not for Tamon's swift intervention, he would have been a goner. Scrambling blindly, completely losing sight of Harkon. Meanwhile, Enoch faces a sudden attack from his own captain. He desperately begs him to stop, but the illusion holds too strong. Harkon is totally deaf to reason. To him, they are just demons trying to drag him into darkness. Right beside Enoch, Jessica steps up to try and reason with him, but the captain completely ignores them and strikes again. This massive onslaught deeply worries our hero. He quickly shouts a warning to the rest to stay back. Harkon lunges anyway, his blade barely missing them. The near miss sends chills down their spines. Worse, something feels deeply wrong. Harkon is stronger now, unbelievably strong. The vile energy has clearly amplified his strength. Now, he blindly channels this raw magic against his closest friends because he cannot see the truth. Left with no other choice, they prepare to defend themselves, but their opponent is no ordinary soldier. With one ferocious swing, Harkon tears a massive crack right through the stone. Shattering their balance, Lean slips on the shifting debris while Jessica gets pinned beneath the heavy stone. Even Nam Tamon takes a direct hit, which terrifies his brother. Tamon insists he is fine, but in reality, things are about to get way worse. Onlookers watching from afar also panic, seeing the sheer danger. Fortunately, Li Hoi steps directly in front of the captain and halts the rampage with a single raised hand. Honestly, our hero was only trying to protect his own skin, yet miraculously, Harkin stops cold. Staring through his haze, the confused captain looks at Li Hoi and demands to know why he looks so pristine amidst this demonic filth. Our hero has no clue what the man is seeing. He simply guesses his class as a demon hunter grants him some sort of natural defense against corruption. Harkin growls, demanding to know his true identity, or he will execute him. Li Hoi desperately needs to speak up, but his current state renders him completely mute, driving his panic even higher. He wants to talk, but simply cannot get Granfell to respond. Met with this quiet defiance, Harkin snarls that it does not matter, he will just slay him anyway. Instead of answering, our hero silently extends a hand. Harkin freezes, wondering what the gesture means and fearing some sort of demonic trick, but then his eyes catch the glowing brooch pinned to our hero's chest. Suddenly, it begins to clear his mind. This specific accessory represents a sacred bond, forged by an oath of absolute loyalty. Just like that, all doubts vanish. And the captain realizes this man is indeed his ally, Li Hoi. Noticing the sudden shift in the captain, our hero lets out a massive sigh of relief, but right then, a system notification pops up, stating his exorcism skill has reached high proficiency, unlocking a brand new feature. While he reads the screen, a sudden threat approaches. Harkin yells to warn him, but the dark energy that corrupted the captain now strikes directly at our hero instead. Deep within his consciousness, Li Hoi spots the foe. He quickly realizes he is trapped inside a mental world, facing none other than one of the 7 deadly sins. Curiously, the demon claims it only wished to protect its precious home. It shares stories of once fertile lands and seas overflowing with glittering treasures where people lived in harmony and pure happiness. Happy, the legend continues with the sudden arrival of a mysterious stranger on their beach. The kind people of the kingdom nursed the foreigner back to health and sent him home. In return, however, they were met with a brutal invasion led by that very same man. Unprepared for battle, the innocent people fell as the invaders devastated their entire kingdom. Hoping for peace, the desperate ruler offered to share half of his legendary treasure. But the greedy invader refused, wanting far more than just half of the riches. He wanted everything, driving the once noble leader to madness and transforming him completely. He became the very demon now towering before our protagonist, his dark origin finally revealed. The beast now claims everything, the entire island, the ocean, and the endless sky. He roars that it all belongs to him alone, leaving absolutely nothing for any outsiders. Because of this, no foreigner has the right to touch his treasures, but our hero. You won't believe his savage reaction. He tells the giant demon he is overreacting completely. He simply cannot stand listening to his pathetic whining and endless complaints anymore. He claims that all that wealth is meaningless, stating that the only real thing to steal is the pride in someone's chest. Infuriated by this, the demon instantly retreats. He vanishes from our hero's mind as the protagonist snaps back to reality. Harkin quickly rushes over to ask if Hoyeol is all right after that encounter. Our hero calmly explains that the core secret lies within the palace's very foundation. By destroying it, he can end this entire crisis. Instantly, he unleashes his magic. Onlookers watch from afar, while online streamers scream that something crazy is happening. The majestic golden palace is being utterly annihilated right before their eyes. Observing the sheer destruction from a distance, Locke remarks on Hoyeol's incredible power. It does not take long for our hero to finish his devastating spell. Though the spell completely drains his remaining mana, he refuses to back down. He boldly confronts the demon, calling his hoarded wealth primitive and pointless. The brave soldiers who died protecting this gold are gone forever, he says. Because of this, the beast should feel ashamed to call himself a king. Bursting from the shattered ruins, the enraged demon screams in absolute fury at his loss. His authority has been insulted, making him question if our hero is even human. To destroy our hero, the furious demon targets his vulnerable allies instead. Unlike Lee Hoyeol, his teammates are completely unable to withstand this overwhelming pressure. Get ready, the system flashes a red alert as Greed watches him closely. The beast declares he will convert those allies into his new undead servants. Since his original army was destroyed, they will do, but our hero says enough. Instantly, the dark spell binding his allies is shattered into pieces. No one can comprehend how this is possible, leaving the demon completely stunned. He has never seen anyone break his absolute mental domination like this before. He demands to know how Romeo escaped his power, claiming to be greed itself. But Romeo simply stares back with a perfectly calm and unbothered expression. He coldly states that the beast is neither greed nor a true sin. A system notification reveals that our hero is absorbing the vampire sphere. His exorcism skill activates, protecting everyone nearby from any abnormal status effects. Its active effect forces the target demon directly into his own mind. Confidently gripping the sphere, Romeo commands the last king of Yusra to awaken. The corrupted king can only gape in complete and utter confusion. The protagonist was dead serious. It was time to correct his mistakes. Suddenly, the sphere instantly split apart, firing intense light energy sideways. The demon roared with laughter and asked what else Romeo could possibly do. An attack like that was easily avoided. The last king of the Yusra kingdom, Hakuna, calmly reached out his hand, stating that this was enough since his palace had already collapsed, the giant demon fully bathed in those powerful beams of light, glared at Hakuna and accused the king of betrayal. Before he could even finish speaking, his dark body was instantly ripped to pieces. Watching the live broadcast, Wum stared in absolute shock, everyone glued to their screens watched with wide, stunned faces. The news correspondent put a hand over his earpiece, sighed, and happily announced that the protagonist actually did it. Wait, did Lee Hoyeol seriously just pull that off? But who was this mysterious figure emerging from the dissipating ashes of the original sin? It was King Hakuna, kneeling before the protagonist. The resurrected king stared blankly at his own hands and softly asked where they were. After all, Hakuna was supposed to have perished alongside that deadly sin. How was this possible? He looked up and asked Romeo if he was truly the warrior who defeated greed. Meanwhile, Romeo was busy browsing through his cluttered system menus, completely ignoring the king. He could barely hear the king over notifications that would take a year to check. Suddenly, a flashing system alert warned that his hidden quest had only 9 seconds remaining. This caught Romeo off guard. He did not expect a sudden time limit on a hidden quest. But a hidden quest was always welcome news. Then, another system window popped up, revealing the next phase of this emergency. King Hakuna, ready to perish with greed, had lost all will to live. He had no purpose left in this ruined world. Now the protagonist had to somehow remind the broken man of his duty as Yusra king. Only 8 seconds left. Romeo had to place the crown on King Hakuna. Lee Hoyeol was totally stumped. Seriously, where was he supposed to get a proper crown now? The system window warned that he only had 7 seconds left. Lee Hoyeol tensely begged the system to let him think, as both he and Romeo stared at the screen in shock. They apparently needed the lost treasure of the island, which was a broken crown. It was an epic rank quest item. The protagonist suddenly remembered how he acquired the crown and knew this was his moment. The smiling reporter asked the viewers who this mysterious stranger on screen could possibly be. He had manifested right where greed was vanquished. Was he another embodiment of sin? Ignoring the media, player Lee Hoyeol calmly reached into his inventory to retrieve an item. Watching the stream on his phone, Shrey gritted his teeth and gasped in disbelief. Was that seriously a crown? Romeo calmly brought the glowing artifact over the royal head. Hakuna stared at his hands in utter shock, crying out that this was his real body. His body was fully restored. Right then, the system confirmed the quest was complete. Li Hoi sighed in relief, putting his hand on his heart as he thought about how he got this crown as a reward for defeating that giant turtle. The protagonist honestly thought it was just some useless item that had accidentally gotten a high rank, but now he saw its true value, bringing him massive relief. The system window then announced that Li Hoyeol had successfully fulfilled all the necessary conditions. The ancient secrets of the Yusra archipelago were finally about to be revealed. Romeo gazed at the blinding light radiating from the system window in pure, silent admiration. Other hunters stared in complete shock at their own screens, reading the global announcement. Someone had just exposed the secret of the Yusra archipelago, and right then, an angry hunter raises his hand and demands to know what on earth this means. Does this mean the rift is actually cleared? What kind of guild is this? A voice calls out that it is not a guild, leaving the hunter completely baffled. She turns to the guild master, urgently telling him to check the system notifications right now. Rox just chuckles, rubbing his neck, wondering if some random player actually did this. Online viewers are going wild, asking what kind of insane alert just popped up. Many of them honestly think some massive world-ending disaster is about to begin. Just who is this mysterious player? Wei Kong looks up in absolute terror and mutters that this is it. Nearby, a shocked reporter grabs his head in utter disbelief, shouting to his audience that a massive worldwide notification has just been issued. Can you believe it? Every single active player across the entire globe sees this alert. Shielding his eyes from the blinding glow, our main character wonders what all this means. Did someone actually uncover the truth? Is the system really referring to him? The lost ancient kingdom of Yusra is finally revealed, shocking every hunter watching. Beams of intense light erupt from the cracking earth right beneath their feet. Giant pillars of energy shoot straight into the sky, leaving the crowd frozen in awe. Watching the ground split, a tense knight realizes a legendary piece of history is rising. The commander looks up in pure astonishment, muttering that this is absolutely unbelievable. They are standing right in front of the legendary ancient kingdom of Yusra. A system alert officially declares that the new region has been successfully discovered. One of the onlookers stares at the massive buildings in complete disbelief. The reporter tells his cameraman to stop staring and focus on filming the shot. He screams at his cameraman to zoom in as close as humanly possible right now. The cameraman yells back that he is already at the absolute maximum zoom level. So the reporter orders him to start running toward the ruins instead. Meanwhile, Romeo looks on calmly. Li Hoyeol quietly wonders what is happening as he stares at the rising king. Suddenly, Hakuna drops to his knees, introducing himself with deep respect. The system announces that Li Hoyeol is now the savior of the Yusra kingdom. His deep spiritual kinship with the ancient kingdom has officially reached its absolute maximum limit. His influence over the entire territory is now completely locked at the cap. His kingdom authority is officially unlocked as Hakuna bows to offer his deep gratitude. Tammin watches all of this in total shock, wondering if this man is truly royalty. Meanwhile, the huntress places her hands on Leon's shoulders, admiring the scene. She mentions how handsome the king is and playfully suggests going over to introduce herself. Leon just sighs with a completely exhausted look, asking what she is even talking about. High up on a nearby tree branch, Khan watches the shocking events unfold below him. Even Li Hoi is caught off guard by all this. Hakuna places a hand on his chest, addressing the savior with deep respect and asking if he may know his name. Li Hoi places a firm hand on Romeo's shoulder, knowing he needs to handle this carefully. Even if the man before them is from a fallen kingdom, he is still a king. So our protagonist quietly tells Romeo that they must show proper respect. Romeo steps forward and formally declares his name, leaving the surrounding hunters stunned. They think his blunt tone is incredibly rude, but Hakuna just smiles warmly. He says he understands, promising that the savior's legendary name will be remembered forever. They have watched for generations. The hunters, completely puzzled by this turn, thought it was a way too formal speech. Leonie asked if things should be reversed. She pointed out that he acts like a fool around everyone. Hoyeol heard her and secretly agreed that Leonie was right. Timon addressed the protagonist by name. Noting that he had kept completely silent, the king, smiling warmly, placed a hand on his chest and admitted that when greed consumed him, Romeo had warned him to correct his. To fix things, the protagonist sternly hoped Hakuna wouldn't repeat his words. Repeat his words. Hoyeol smiled and nervously clutched his hair. The king looked away, admitting that upon hearing this, he decided to die along with his mortal sin, yet the protagonist saved him and returned the crown to him. Harkin watched the scene play out. Hakuna lowered his head, asking why Romeo did this. What could he possibly expect from a king who destroyed his subjects with a single mistake? Meanwhile, on the island, subordinates ran frantically after their leader, shouting to ask why they were running. Shreg angrily clenched his teeth, dashed forward at high speed, and roared for them to stop whining and hurry. This marked the very first national-scale update in Arcana history. A brand new territory had appeared on Earth. Shreg confidently clenched his fist and declared that this land was Yusra. He knew this kingdom held immense value. Arcana's history. It boasted numerous cities, villages, rare monsters, hidden treasures, and the rich resources of the land. It would definitely bring in a massive fortune if only they could rebuild it. Shreg knew he had to seize this golden chance while he could. A tired-looking hunter clenched his fist and complained loudly that their guild master had refused when they wanted to go. Overflowing with joy, Shreg ran forward and openly confessed that he had been terrified back then. Romeo, looking incredibly calm, stayed quiet as the king stared at him. The protagonist then voiced his belief that restoring the lost kingdom of Yusra was the right path. The puzzled hunters asked what restoration meant. Was it truly possible? Hakuna was deeply shocked by his words. Looking down, he asked who would ever serve a king who abandoned his own loyal subjects. Romeo, with a serious gaze, answered that it all depended on how the king acted in the future. He added that the protagonist would assist Hakuna in reclaiming his pride by fixing his mistakes. The king was utterly astonished by what Romeo had spoken. He smirked, lowered his head, noting that the protagonist seemed to be reading his mind. Suddenly, a system window announced that a hidden quest, the Yusra Kingdom, had unlocked. The awakened monarch desired to fix his past mistakes and restore the Yusra Kingdom to reclaim his pride. The conditions for clear success were completely hidden. Romeo, looking away, thought that it was already written directly in the quest window. Hakuna bowed his head, hand on his chest, declaring that things would be exactly as the protagonist wished. Shreg quickly appeared, resting his hands on his hips, and loudly claimed that everything was indeed just so. Smirking, he placed his hand on his chest, declaring that a legendary kingdom like Yusra deserved to be restored. His own second son guild would assist every possible way. The guild master raised his hand, smiling, and asked the hunters for forgiveness, but they wondered if Shreg was just looking to profit. He was truly an impudent man. Shreg slapped his hand onto Timon's shoulder and he stared right at the protagonist, raising his hand with a bright smile while announcing loudly, "This has to be Li Hoi," since the guild master had heard so much about him. Shreg figured that this protagonist was the one clearly controlling the entire situation, and he needed to meet him, quickly grabbing Romeo's hand with a wide smile. It was an absolute pleasure to meet him, as everyone in the Second Sun Guild was a fan. The watching hunters were completely stunned by this, while Shreg just kept smiling happily. He watched the protagonist turn toward him, grit his teeth, and tense up immediately. The heavy atmosphere felt incredibly off, making him wonder if the guild master had messed up. Hakan barked out a question about his manners, while Tammin just smirked, resting his chin in his hand, thinking that Shreg had just been completely shut down. the guild. Master stared tensely at Romeo, laughing and saying it seemed he had been rude. Why on earth did Shriek grab the protagonist's left hand? Romeo sternly grit his teeth, realizing he had almost drifted off to sleep. Protagonist could barely keep his eyes open, likely because he had used way too much mana. Still, Hoyeol had completely destroyed the palace and completed the exorcism ritual, but now sheer fatigue was catching up to him, and he could pass out. He desperately needed to go home. Romeo looked away, ignoring Shriek completely as he turned to Hakuna, the king of Yusra, with a proposal for him, leaving everyone watching in absolute shock. A little while later, over at the Berserk Guild headquarters, the live news reported that Jan and Berserk were teaming up to rebuild Yusra, while Hakan stayed behind in the "Look at this," the caption under Shryog's photo asked if he was an empty space. Lean and her assistant burst out laughing at the screen as another hunter smirked. Offering ice cream to the room, the guy raised his hand, asking what was wrong. With everyone and wondering if they had all lost their minds, another hunter, looking over the paper, mentioned that a new article had just been posted, detailing Shriek's incredibly embarrassing public failure. The first hunter asked what he meant, reading the chaotic live chat under Shriek's video, where viewers kept saying he clearly had no shame or manners, which is exactly why everyone ignored him. He grinned, pointing directly at the phone screen, while laughing hysterically with the nearby girls. Meanwhile, over at the Janwild headquarters, the television news reported that Shriek's humiliation was worsening as cringy old posts surfaced. In the picture, the guild master posed with a cigarette and a ridiculously dramatic caption. Below, Namchel tearfully threw his arms around his brother, shouting out in pure joy that they had actually made it, praising Tammin for a job well done. Clapping a hand onto his shoulder, he proudly declared his support, since Tammin had secured the legendary quest to rebuild the Yusra kingdom. Smiling, his brother humbly brushed it off, admitting he had only followed his older brother's instructions. Namchel cheered, wondering how to express his excitement, before asking his sibling for a quick kiss, though Time Men quickly backed away in disgust. A nearby hunter watched the weird duo, asking what on earth was wrong with them. Was the quest to rebuild Yura really that amazing? Glancing away, another man explained with a heavy look that this opportunity was far more than just good. It is the first kingdom appearing after Arcana began updating in reality. Once the reconstruction wraps up, its value will skyrocket. The man smiled, raising his. He raised his glass, confident that many are now trying to build good ties with the Yura kingdom. Shrag was among them, but Tammin furiously shoves his brother right out of the way. Pushing him back, the analyst explains that its value is skyrocketing to astronomical heights. This is the first ever update on a national scale, making it insanely valuable. On top of that, the kingdom is packed with natural resources and massive growth potential. Nearby regions will be perfect for grinding levels, since monsters constantly respawn there. Later on, we might even get updates for the shop and auction house systems. Gaining enough influence or securing a solid connection to the kingdom's crown. Doing so will even grant them noble titles once the reconstruction wraps up. Another hunter eagerly steps up and loudly calls out to Hoyeol, begging to join. He wants his military guild added to the restoration quest, claiming they are expert diggers. Meanwhile, other hunters clench their fists in frustration, loudly searching for our hero. They are positive that Hoyeol turned down this corridor just a moment ago. A crack crackles with raw energy on the wall before Romeo effortlessly shatters it. Standing there with his hand raised, Hoyeol internally sighs at how exhausted he is. At this rate, he will never make it back home in all this chaotic mess. He starts wondering if he should just head over to the magician's tower instead. Sighing, he places his hand on the broken wall and looks away. He blinks in surprise as a flash of bright blonde hair appears before him. Believe it or not, Jessie is literally hovering in the air right above Romeo. She happily rests her hands on her cheeks, saying she has been waiting for ages. Startled, Hoyeol drops his jaw in shock, thinking he is seeing a literal ghost. Jessie politely lowers her hat, bows, and asks how he has been doing. Romeo maintains a stern face, raising his hand to remark that she is incredibly polite. Internally, Hoyeol is just so exhausted from all of today's constant madness. Holding his hand out, he politely notes he has no tea to offer, but she can sit. It turns out that the rocket cannot even reach the magician's distant tower. Jessie cheerfully responds that it is for the best, since she could easily stop it anyway. Romeo facepalms in exhaustion, utterly confused about what she is even talking about. Our tired hero simply cuts to the chase and asks what she wants. Jessie reveals she has magic questions, having watched countless clips of Hoyeol's battles. She knows he is highly skilled in research, magical intervention, and spellcasting. Romeo rests his face in his hand, clearly bored as he states his exhaustion. Internally, our hero grumbles that today has been an incredibly long, taxing day. Jessie mentions how he copied the Supreme Archmage Morello's complex spell effortlessly. He did it on the very first try, though Romeo is barely paying attention. Jessie continues, adding that even her own master called him a supreme genius. But Romeo is preoccupied, mentally hyper-focusing on the deadly sin of greed. The demon brought up original sin, yet failed to recognize his exorcism abilities. A high-ranking archdemon should easily identify an elite demon hunter on sight. There is no other explanation. Jessie smiles, raising her hand to point forward. She asks if the spectacular power he displayed was actually real magic. Looking at Romeo expectantly, she softly calls out his full name. Our hero simply closes his eyes and crosses his arms, remaining silent. Jessie stares back in pure shock, but Romeo remains completely unresponsive to her presence. She opened her mouth. Jessie stood right on the table, pointing her finger. She reached her hand right to his face, placing a finger on his eyelid. Romeo's eyes snapped open. He stared in absolute shock at the empty chair. He saw nothing but a single note left behind. Was this all just a dream? He wondered which parts of his memory were real. Then he looked closer. The note stated that Jessie would visit again. Romeo realized how exhausted he was. He must have passed out right in front of her. How incredibly embarrassing. Looking down at the paper, the main character felt he had been pretty rude. Suddenly, a glowing system window popped up right in front of his eyes. It was a brand new quest called Morello's Research. The tower's supreme mage wanted to study the peak of magic with him. But first, Romeo had to prove himself to 20 elite senior mages. Easy, not a chance. The protagonist knew things had been too quiet lately. Things had been pretty calm lately, too calm if you ask me. There was no way the tower's elite would accept him so easily. He only got the job thanks to Morello, so a test was inevitable. Hoy let out a tired, massive yawn, stretching his arms high. Why today of all days? He was absolutely exhausted and wanted sleep. Romeo rubbed his heavy eyes and told the visitor to come inside. Morello gently pushed the door open, holding a book as he entered. He apologized for rushing in, saying he urgently needed to speak with Hoy. Romeo cracked one eye open and stopped the old man mid-sentence. He confidently stated that he already knew why the Supreme Mage was here. He had to prove his worth. Morello just blinked at his messy hair. The elder sighed, apologizing that his own shortcomings caused the doubt. Romeo walked over, straightened his jacket, and told him not to worry. He said the Supreme Mage was definitely not the one lacking anything here. Though in reality, Hoyeol knew he was severely lacking sleep. Morello just stared back at him, completely lost and apologetic. Romeo stood tall and confidently asked Morello to lead the way. Since they didn't believe in him, he would simply make them believe. The system updated, revealing a challenge from the elder Belly Ish. He had to attend the conference to face the doubting senior mages. A short while later, the powerful elders were all seated inside. The head of healing, Belelish, smirked and rested her chin. She knew it would be absolutely impossible for Lee Hoyeol to pass their test. The entrance was blocked by a third-tier sealing spell from 3 elite elders. The kid wouldn't even be able to find the room, let alone enter. But suddenly, slam, the heavy door was thrown wide open. Looking incredibly intense, Romeo breached the room. Belia gasped in shock. The surrounding mages panicked. How on earth was this even possible? Did Lee Hoyeol really just destroy a third-tier spell so easily? Belelja demanded to know exactly how he did it, her mind completely blown. Not even the legendary Morello could have bypassed that barrier so quickly. Romeo coldly remarked that someone had tried to block his path at the door. She raised her hand, tensely. What was this overwhelming power? Lee Hoyeol walked toward them, announcing he came all this way. Solely because they wanted to meet him, no more wasting his precious time with petty games. Right then, Romeo pointed his hand straight toward the older mage, asking if they were finally ready to take responsibility. He glared at Belia with a dark, ominous aura surrounding his eyes, leaning his hands on the bench. Lee Hoyeol looked directly at her with wide red eyes as she screamed. Exhausted, Lee Hoyeol silently thought that he had nearly fallen asleep right where he stood. This was too bad. He needed to get home and sleep. Any more of this, and the situation would become a joke. Romeo adjusted his tie and calmly demanded that they make this the absolute last time. Belia stared at him in sheer amazement. She fumed inside. Was this really just a game? Did he seriously call a spell she could not reverse mere plaything? Another mage clutched his head and loudly exclaimed that he had just remembered a crucial detail. He was certain this was the very same researcher that Claire had mentioned, the gatecrasher who attended the exclusive magicians conference. Completely uninvited, hearing this, a second magician loudly asked if it was really true. The first mage replied loudly that he finally understood why Morello had recommended him to join. The older magician looked away in shock. Sweat dripped down her cheek as she realized this man was the same researcher who easily saw through the Tower Master's complex illusions. Later that night, wait for it, under the tower's quiet night sky, Romeo sat up upon seeing the system window. The system alert notified him that 3 out of 20 senior mages had acknowledged his existence. Lee Hoyeol noted that the number of recognizing mages had grown because of his latest stunt, but 3, that was far less than he expected. Tiredly, Lee Hoy let out a huge yawn, covering his mouth with his hand. Romeo sternly pressed his lips together, trembling slightly, while fighting another yawn. Still, they were all senior mages and the best in their fields. Getting recognized just for opening a door was pretty decent. Lee Hoyeol rested his hand on the table, adjusted his tie, and thought that first of all, he was a demon hunter, not a mage. He had no rush. A weary Romeo silently thought that he would go to sleep first, then submit the loot from Isra for appraisal before studying the absolute basics of magic. The protagonist whipped around in surprise as a voice called his name. The magic parchment loudly ordered Lee Hoyeol to pay attention. Staring at it in surprise, he placed a hand on Romeo's shoulder, wondering what kind of bizarre anomaly this was. The magic parchment hovered upward, announcing that it was actually Marcelo. This item was a specialized magical communication tool for wizards. If Lee Hoyeol wanted to reply, he simply had to speak to it. Romeo stared down at the floating paper in his hands, completely bewildered. Marcelo's miniature face smiled from the parchment's surface. Lee Hoyeol peered back sternly. Stepping closer, he demanded to know what the mage wanted. Marcelo nervously suggested there was no need to stand so close. Irritated, Lee Hoyeol instantly tossed the parchment into the trash. Undeterred, Marcelo quickly floated right up to Romeo's face, explaining that he genuinely came to apologize for earlier. This all went down in the Crystal Hall, where a prank had been played on the door, and the young mage was apologizing for the senior mage's rudeness. A supreme mage is Someone who reached the peak, complete mastery, regardless of their magical school. Senior mages demand that supreme mages constantly prove they are truly worthy of their position. Li Hoi tensely touched his chin. This was just like school. Just like bad guys fighting for supremacy, this must be pretty tiring for Marcelo. The young mage admitted this was not new. Romeo was currently being tested. Because Marcelo had not proven himself worthy yet, and for that, he felt deeply sorry. The protagonist looked away, thinking that from the senior mage's point of view, it looked like some main villain took an exchange student and turned him into an assistant. Romeo said mages should never apologize for such things. Nobles also have to constantly prove they are worthy of their title. The protagonist, he was already quite accustomed to these tests. Marcelo looked down sadly, admitting he was quite worried that Li Hoyeol was being underestimated because of him. The protagonist reacted to those words with sudden surprise. He knew it was a mistake to use that exact word of underestimate right in front of Romeo. The protagonist smiled hearing his words, which caught Marcelo off guard. Romeo declared that when others underestimate him, he should simply prove himself. Li Hoi covered his face with his hands in shame, knowing that Romeo is about to drop some ridiculously shameless lines. The protagonist smiled, closed his eyes, and said that when people overestimate him, he should just make their highest expectations come true. At the same time, the parchment showing Romeo's face stated that if someone doubted him, he would just continue to improve himself and his own abilities as a leader. Marcelo admitted that he had also been impolite and should have talked to the main character directly instead of talking through a magic parchment. Romeo crossed his arms, looked at the parchment, and said it was completely fine. The magician said that he should have thought about it much more. The main character closed his eyes, raised his hand, and repeated what he had already said. There was no need to worry about it. Marcelo promised to come over right away, adding that he would be at Li Hoi's place in about 10 minutes so they could meet. Then the magician stopped talking and the magic parchment fell onto the table. With a tired look, the main character thought that he had already told him everything was fine. Romeo lowered his head, placing a hand on his forehead, thinking that at this rate, he would only sleep. When he was dead, it would be pretty hard to earn the senior mage's respect. As a total novice, considering he wasn't even a real magician, a bright sphere of energy formed in Romeo's hand. He calmly watched the flying spheres and knew that he was only level 266, while senior mages were at least level 600, making Romeo nothing but a total newbie to them. He resolved not to let any of this deter him from his goal. The protagonist raised his finger, thinking that he needed to investigate. Li Hoi figured that he had to prove those who underestimated him were wrong and turn wild exaggeration into reality. Romeo used interference, turning ordinary spheres into raging fireballs. He then used manifestation, creating bright lanterns. Even amidst the fireballs, Romeo and Li Hoyeol watched calmly as the flying lanterns illuminated the entire room. The protagonist believed this was Romeo's immense pride and therefore his own. Li Hoyeol looked up, smiling slightly. Placing his hands on his hips, he quickly spoke. The protagonist leaned against the bookcase, thinking this grand pride was entirely unnecessary. His mana had run dry from utilizing simple light magic, which is considered the absolute basics of all magic. Marcelo, standing right outside, turned toward the room and asked if Li Hoyeol was currently inside. Opening the office door, he politely announced he was coming in. Romeo calmly folded his arms and allowed him inside. Meanwhile, at a construction site over in Yusra, Nam Chalmin stared at his screen, completely stunned.